for you in just a little bit. A number of other things we are tracking today as well. I had the chance just a little bit ago to speak with Drew Kessie, the father of Jennifer Kessie. It has been nearly 20 years since Jennifer disappeared from her Orlando apartment. There have not been any answers in this case. Her family has fought for years and years to get those answers. I claimed that the investigation right off the bat was botched, and they fought to get some of the documents related to the case. FDLE has picked up that case and been investigating for the past couple of years, and that case is no longer cold. There continue to be tips and advances in that case, and Drew told me just a little bit ago he doesn't think they've ever been this close to finding those answers. So we will hear from him coming up in just a little bit. It is also day 23 of the government shutdown in Washington, D.C. We will hear from lawmakers as that continues, and really not much progress, it seems, being made on that front. But we begin. We're going to take a look at the weather. Let me give you this live look at downtown Orlando at Lake Eola right now. Beautiful morning out there, but we also are keeping an eye on Tropical Storm Melissa and learning more about that forecast. Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner joins me now, and Brooks, are we getting some more answers when it comes to Tropical Storm Melissa, as far as things kind of getting honed in on?
Yes, there's still considerable uncertainty about where exactly in the Caribbean it's going to go and what exact impacts it'll have to what specific island. Will it be Jamaica? Will it be Hispaniola, where Haiti and the DR is located? Will it be Cuba? Or will it be all three of them? But what is coming into focus is where it will ultimately go next week, and that is out and away into the Atlantic. So that's good for interest in the Gulf as well as here in Florida. So let's get right to it right now. First off, locally, we've had a cold front move through overnight, and that's leading to these just beautiful conditions. We're in the 60s as of this midday hour in Ocala, and the front is now strewn across South Florida. It's producing hazardous boating conditions off of the Atlantic waters. But I want to show you this also because we're in that king tide season, and while the tide is going out, it's been high enough to basically cover up the entire beach. And next week, while Melissa will squarely miss Florida, we'll still catch some swell as it departs, and with a pretty steady onshore flow and some of that distant hurricane swell, we could see more coastal erosion. It's been a beautiful day, though, across Central Florida so far, and we're going to top out at 84 degrees. So while we're enjoying this beautiful fall air, all you-know-what is breaking loose here across the Caribbean, and folks there are really concerned, as they should be. In fact, I've personally fielded a couple of social media messages from people from Florida vacationing in the Caribbean, one in Jamaica, one in the Dominican Republic, and one who's got a kid who's on a mission trip in Haiti. And all are understandably worried about the system coming. And with the person in Jamaica, they said, hey, I'm there till Wednesday of next week. Should I leave? And my reaction was yes, because as Melissa works northward, it's expected to become a hurricane this weekend, and a major hurricane at that. And in fact, by Sunday, there could be downpours that are so heavy that they close the airports on Jamaica. So if you're watching this stream from the islands trying to get an update, or you've got friends or family down there, I'm definitely advising people, especially in Jamaica, to think about heading out early, because by the time we get into Monday and Tuesday, there's going to be a major hurricane just south of the island, pushing in what could be some devastating flash flooding to Jamaica. There's a mountain there called Blue Mountain, center of the island, 7,000-foot peak, and when all of that moisture bumps up against that peak, it can rain down in some mighty torrents. And not to mention, they'll close the airport. And then finally, just on a logistical standpoint, you don't really want to be there as a tourist when folks that are working at the resorts and all that stuff are cleaning up their own domestic issue, right? If there's major damage there, you just don't want to be an impedance to that situation. So it's best to get out if you can. And again, the timeline on that would be ASAP, because folks there are rushing to completions by this weekend. Now, where does it go from there? Well, there's a kind of an unprecedented confidence that it is going to be a rapidly developing system. Where the uncertainty lie is where exactly it will go, because it's going to stall this weekend south of Jamaica for a couple of days. And in doing so, send wave after wave of heavy rain into the island, as well as into Hispaniola, like the Haiti area. And that's going to cause some big problems in itself. So there's going to be two factors that are particularly devastating with this storm. It's going to be the torrential rains. It could be more than 2 or 3 feet. And against mountains, that can cause just debris flows and wreak havoc, sweep away villages, the whole thing. The other is the wind. Some of the models are forecasting this to become a Category 5 hurricane. Some models spin this thing up to a high-end Cat 5. I mean, we're talking like winds over 175 miles an hour. So this is like big dog hurricane weather potential here. So that would be a Jamaica impact. So yeah, that's why I'm telling people, you don't want to be there for that if you can get out. So one thing that is becoming more certain is where it's going to go, and that would be zipping out into the open Atlantic. Now, the intensity forecast for this does feature, at least it looks like a Category 4. That blue line is the official national hurricanes that are forecast, and that reaches hurricane strength within 3 days, which would be Saturday, Sunday, and then major hurricane status early next week, and potentially Cat 5. So this could be the biggest hurricane of the season. Certainly, it looks like it'll be the most devastating hurricane of the season as far as damage to land on those islands. So for us, we're not going to have a direct impact, but we will have an indirect impact with high pressure moving in from the northeast, providing some more beautiful fall weather. There's going to be what's called a pressure gradient between the high pressure to the north and the low pressure that is, at that point, Major Hurricane Melissa. And that's going to produce a pretty strong wind gradient where you have winds getting pulled in from the Atlantic at over 20, maybe 25 miles an hour over a long period of time. That's going to push a lot of water toward our shoreline. That combined with king tides and swell developing will likely result in flooding, coastal flooding and erosion at times of high tide. And as the system ultimately moves by late next week, we could have an actual direct hurricane swell, and that would further amplify the effect. The highest king tide, by the way, comes our way on November 6th with the next full moon. That's the highest king tide of the whole season, where the moon is closest to the Earth in its annual orbit. Another thing that this is going to do is as Melissa moves out, it's going to drag the strongest cold front of the season south across the entire East Coast and Florida, resulting in widespread 40s away from the water in central Florida for lows, 50s in the city and 50s and low 60s on the actual Atlantic water. And high temperatures will only reach the upper 60s to low 70s for a couple of days. It looks like around Halloween and November 1st. So that's huge. It's also going to result in the first freeze widespread across the Ohio River Valley, widespread frost across Kentucky, the first freeze in the Smokies of the southern Appalachians. So even some snowflakes could fly up there in the Appalachians. So, I mean, this is a season-changing event, and oftentimes when you get cold fronts dragging all the way to roughly the Turks and Caicos, it can essentially end the hurricane season for the U.S., where any storms that come down the pike from the main development region off of Africa get curved away with frequent cold fronts, and anything developing in the Caribbean gets deflected before it can come anywhere near us. So let's talk 7-day forecast. We're going to have a beautiful, drier air set up for the next couple of days. Gorgeous end to the work week. One cold front coming through. The next cold front arriving at the end of next week associated with Melissa's passage. Windy conditions, though, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, as we start to catch that onshore flow with the pressure gradient I had mentioned. That's also going to drag in a little bit of moisture, resulting in a couple of coming in off of the Atlantic next week.
40s just in time for, better have those jackets and coats with those Halloween costumes.
Maybe that's a little extreme with the jackets. I don't think it's going to be like, maybe up north. I don't think it's going to be like a New York kind of Halloween where you're bundled up. But certainly for trick-or-treating on that Halloween evening, it'll probably be around 70 or so.
Okay.
Like perfect dry weather.
That is nice.
But at night it'll cool down to the 40s and 50s for the next morning.
Okay, got it. I was going to say, you had me nervous there for a little bit.
It's not going to be terrible for trick-or-treating, but maybe the parents want to have a light sweatshirt or something like that.
All right. Well, good news there. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner, we appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks, Garrett.
And here's a live look at Daytona Beach from our Hard Rock Hotel camera. We'll be right back with more next. We're going to step aside, take a quick break here on Fox Local and on YouTube. We'll be right back and talk more about this gambling ring that was busted, this gambling scheme busted by the FBI and the DOJ. So keep it right here on Fox Local, and we'll be right back.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Garrett Weimer here, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Two indictments released today from the Department of Justice and the FBI, holding a news conference in New York City earlier today, just a little bit ago actually, where we heard from FBI Director Kash Patel, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, and they talked about the arrests of Portland Trail Blazers head coach Chauncey Billups, Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, who, as I said, was arrested in Orlando today after the early this morning after the Magic played the Heat in the season opener last night. Rozier expected in a federal court this afternoon in Orlando, so we still have more coverage to come with that story. We will bring you more details as we get them, but I do want to go ahead and play for you this news conference as we heard from the FBI director kind of laying out what we know about this and how it's all tied as well, they say, to the Italian mafia. So here is Kash Patel and a number of other officials speaking just a little bit ago in New York.
Good morning. Today we are here in New York to announce a historic arrest across a wide-sweeping criminal enterprise that envelops both the NBA and La Casa Nostra. The men and women up here standing with me represent a small portion of the leadership team that brought profound justice in an era that needed it more than any. I'll just highlight some of the details in the case and the FBI work, and then you'll hear from the others. But as you now know, individuals such as Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier were taken into custody today, former, current NBA players and coaches. What you don't know is that this is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years. The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing. Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against La Casa Nostra to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families. And you'll hear more about those details today. The charges and the arrests that were taken down across this country range from wire fraud, money laundering, extortion, robbery, illegal gambling. This FBI will leave no room for any perpetrator of crime across this country. You hear a lot about our work of defending the homeland and crushing violent crime. Well, this work is also representative of a colossal portion of the FBI's mandate to keep America safe and to keep our entertainment industry fair and secure. The men and women that are standing up here today worked tireless hours, days, months, and years. And the fraud is mind-boggling. It's not hundreds of dollars. It's not thousands of dollars. It's not tens of thousands of dollars. It's not even millions of dollars. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery across a multi-year investigation. And we could not have done it without our interagency partners that are before us today. The NYPD, HSI, and teams of law enforcement officials from around the country made this day possible. It takes a team to bring this kind of justice, sweeping justice, into the halls of the United States courtrooms, where our brave United States Attorney has led this prosecution. It takes courageous prosecutors to stand before you and say, we will not allow this kind of illicit activity to happen, not only at the national sporting level, but also where it hides in La Casa Nostra. And when these two collided together, they perpetrated a fraud that is historic in terms of not just money, but the scheme and the deceit that they utilize to steal and swindle people for money, to include crypto fraud. This is an operation that showcases to you that under President Trump's administration, there is no room for any type of criminal behavior, be it on the world's largest stage or in the back rooms of tiny parlors where card games are being played. We are proud to stand here today with the men and women of the FBI and this legal team. And to the United States Attorney, I just want to thank you personally for taking the time to display the work that the media is about to hear about today in detail. As I said, it does take courageous prosecutors, but it takes a courageous United States Attorney to bring this case, because we are going to take heat for it. But we don't shy away in this administration. We don't say no. What we do is we bring the results across the finish line. We bring them to the public. We bring you accountability. And yes, they will have their day in court, and you will hear the evidence through the court system exclusively. We will not deny anyone of due process. And that's the brilliance of this system. That's the brilliance of this administration. Everyone will be held to account. So with that, I turn it over to United States Attorney Nosell. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Patel. To be clear, we're announcing today indictments in two major cases, both involving fraud. One involves sports betting, and the other involves illegal gambling, very specifically rigged poker games. The first indictment involves 6 defendants who are alleged to have participated in one of the most brazen sports corruption schemes since online sports betting became widely legalized in the United States. This scheme is an insider sports betting conspiracy that exploited confidential information about National Basketball Association athletes and teams. The second indictment involves 31 defendants alleged to have participated in a nationwide scheme to rig illegal poker games. These defendants, which include former professional athletes, used high-tech cheating technology to steal millions of dollars from victims in underground poker games that were secretly fixed. The games in the New York area were backed by the Bonanno, Gambino, and Genovese crime families of La Cosa Nostra. While the cases are separate, there are 3 overlapping defendants charged in both cases: Damon Jones, Eric Ernest, and Shane Hennon. The indictments in these cases contain only allegations, and the defendants are presumed innocent until they are proven guilty in a court of law. But my message to the defendants who've been rounded up today is this: your winning streak has ended. Your luck has run out. Violating the law is a losing proposition, and you can bet on that. First, I would like to talk about United States versus Ernest, the NBA basketball gambling case. The defendants in this case are Eric Ernest, Marvez Farley, Shane Hennon, DeNiro Laster, Damon Jones, a former NBA player and coach, and Terry Rozier, a current NBA player. Other co-conspirators were previously charged for their roles in the scheme, including former NBA player Jontay Porter. Between December 2022 and March 2024, these defendants perpetrated a scheme to defraud by betting on inside, non-public information about NBA athletes and teams. The non-public information included when specific players would be sitting out future games, or when they would pull themselves out early for purported injuries or illnesses. They relied on corrupt individuals, including Jones and Rozier. They also misused information obtained through long-standing friendships that they had with NBA players and coaches. And in at least one instance, they got their information by threatening a current player, Porter, because of his pre-existing gambling debts. Defendants used this non-public information to place hundreds of thousands of dollars in fraudulent bets, mostly in the form of prop bets on individual player performance. The bets were placed through online sports books and also in person at casinos. The defendants relied on a network of straw bettors to place the maximum amount of bets to increase their potential profits. Most of these bets succeeded, and the intended losses were in the millions of dollars. The defendants then laundered their illegal winnings in various ways: peer-to-peer platforms, bank wires, and simple cash exchanges. The indictment details specific examples where the defendants profited from illegal gambling and illegal betting on various NBA games about the performance of players on, among other things, the Charlotte Hornets, the Portland Trail Blazers, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Toronto Rangers. Each defendant in the NBA basketball gambling case has been charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Now, I would like to turn to the other case, United States versus Aiello, the rigged poker game case. Beginning as early as 2019, the defendants in this case orchestrated a scheme to use wireless cheating technology to run rigged poker games across the United States, including in the Hamptons, Las Vegas, Miami, and Manhattan. The scheme targeted victims known as, quote, fish, who were often lured to participate in these rigged games by the chance to play alongside former professional athletes who were known as, quote, face cards. The so-called face cards included the defendant Chauncey Billups, who at the time of the scheme was a former NBA player and is currently the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, and also Damon Jones, a former NBA player and coach. What the victims, the fish, didn't know is that everybody else at the poker game, from the dealer to the players, including the face cards, were in on the scam. Once the game was underway, the defendants fleeced the victims out of tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars per game. The defendants used a variety of very sophisticated cheating technologies, some of which were provided by other defendants in exchange for a share of the profits from the scheme. For example, they used off-the-shelf shuffling machines that had been secretly altered in order to read the cards in the deck, predict which player at the table had the best poker hand, and relay that information to an off-site operator. The off-site operator sent the information via cell phone back to a co-conspirator at the table, and that person at the table was known as the quarterback. The quarterback then signaled secretly the information he had received from others to others at the table, and together they used that information in order to win their games and to cheat the victims. Defendants used other cheating technologies such as poker chip tray analyzers, which is a poker chip tray that secretly reads cards using a hidden camera, special contact lenses or eyeglasses that could read pre-marked cards, and an X-ray table that could read cards face down on the table. What you see depicted on the screen right now is an example of the X-ray table that reveals the cards. Although they are face down on the table, they can be read because of the X-ray technology. The mafia, specifically members and associates of the Bonanno, Gambino, and Genovese organized crime families, had pre-existing control over non-rigged, illegal poker games around New York City. As a result, they also became involved in the rigged poker games, helping to organize the games and taking a cut of the proceedings, and working to enforce the collection of debts. The defendants laundered their proceeds, including through cash exchanges, the use of multiple shell companies, and through cryptocurrency transfers. As part of the scheme, some of the defendants and their co-conspirators also committed acts of violence, including the gunpoint robbery of a person in order to obtain a rigged shuffling machine, and extortions that were perpetrated against victims in order to ensure that they repaid their gambling debts. Defendants who participated in the rigged poker scheme are charged with wire fraud conspiracy. Other defendants have been charged with crimes including illegal gambling, money laundering, Hobbs Act robbery, and extortions. This case demonstrates our office's unrelenting commitment to fighting the scourge of organized crime in whatever form it takes. I'd like to conclude my remarks by thanking the incredible hard work of our law enforcement partners, including the FBI, Homeland Security, the NYPD, and the Waterfront Commission. I also want to thank the dedicated prosecutors who built these two cases and who are standing to my right. Benjamin Weintraub, David Bourbon, Caitlin Farrell, Michael Gibaldi, Irisa Chen, and Sean Sherman. They had the assistance of paralegal specialists Liam McNett, John Schneider, Marlene Bosler. Also deserving of our thanks because of their outstanding investigative work on the NBA case are FBI Special Agents Russell Lantier, Dominic Mariani, Amy Giarosa, Shane Wilkins, and Supervisory Special Agent Luke Hardison. On the rigged poker game scheme, outstanding work was performed by FBI Special Agents Thomas Cribbin, Jeff Boriola, Jonathan Corona, Alexander Silverman, Amy Campanaro, and Supervisory Special Agent Michael Malahy, as well as NYPD Task Officer James McCullough, and from Homeland Security, Supervisory Special Agent Charles Freund, and from the Waterfront Commission, Detective Paul Shimborski. Finally, I want to note that the investigations in both cases are ongoing, and we encourage anyone with information about either scheme to please contact the FBI. Now I would like to turn the podium over to Special Agent in charge of the New York Field Office, I should say the Assistant Director in charge of the New York Field Office of the FBI, Christopher Rea. Chris?
All right, thank you, Joe. As always, we appreciate the partnership here. Can't do any of this without you and your team, so thank you. Also want to publicly thank the director for coming down from D.C. The director's a very busy person, and for him to come down should tell you the importance of this historic case. I'm Christopher Rea, the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI New York Field Office. Today, as you've heard, our office conducted a massive nationwide takedown from 2 indictments of 34 defendants for their alleged involvement in 2 separate illegal poker and sports betting schemes where, as you heard, the odds were rigged in their favor. Among these defendants are 13 members and associates of the Bonanno, Gambino, and Genovese crime families, to include capos and soldiers from these families. Additionally, as you heard, current and former NBA coaches and players are also implicated, to include Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier. 3 of the named defendants are charged for their alleged roles in both schemes. This alleged illegal gambling operation hustled unwitting victims out of tens of millions of dollars and created a financial pipeline for La Cosa Nostra to help fund and facilitate their organized criminal activity. Victims were attracted to play alongside well-known professional athletes and coaches like Chauncey Billups, only to be unknowingly deceived through rigged shuffling machines, fixing the odds in their favor, as alleged and as you just heard from the U.S. Attorney's Office. This alleged scheme wreaked havoc across the nation, exploiting the notoriety of some and the wallets of many to fund the Italian crime families here in New York. Let me be clear about this fact. The FBI has not and will never take their eye off the ball when it comes to Italian organized crime in this city, specifically the LCN and the 5 families here in New York. We are not going to permit any criminal enterprise, whether it be Italian organized crime, Asian organized crime, Eurasian organized crime. We're not going to permit any of those organized crimes, families, and organizations to operate in our city or our country, as evidenced by the 11 states that were also participating in this operation today. The FBI office here in New York remains committed to eradicating all unlawful revenue streams fueling this criminal activity. As with most cases we work, this is only the tip of the iceberg for the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office. Our LCN squad agents and analysts are continuing to work day and night with the Eastern District of New York to ensure members and associates of the 5 families cannot continue to wreak havoc in our communities. Today would not have been possible without the tireless efforts and dedication of the FBI New York Eurasian Organized Crime Task Force, which, as you heard, was led by Supervisory Special Agent Luke Hardison, and the Italian Organized Task Force, which was led by Supervisory Special Agent Mike Malahi. And coincidentally, Supervisory Special Agent Malahi is going out on a positive as he is retiring at the end of this month for 30 years of dedicated service to the FBI, and that deserves a hand. He's what we call a legend here at FBI New York. Additionally, obviously we cannot do this alone without our partners. I want to extend my appreciation to Homeland Security Investigations Special Agent in Charge, Ricky Patel. Of course, we do nothing in this city without the NYPD. New York City Police Department Commissioner Jesse Tisch, thank you, ma'am, for all your work and all your resources that you dedicated to this. And New York Waterfront Commissioner Phoebe Soriel for their agency's assistance and support throughout this lengthy and complex investigation. Our collective efforts ensured these subjects will face accountability, like the director said, for their alleged wrongdoings. Thank you, and I'll now turn it over to Special Agent in Charge of HSI, Ricky Patel.
And before we hear from the Homeland Security investigator, we are going to take a quick break here on Fox Local. We've got to get in, so we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be right back. You won't miss anything from that news conference. We will have the rest of it for you in just a few minutes.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us this morning live on Fox Local. I want to give you a live look at the federal courthouse in Orlando, where at 2:30, Terry Rozier is expected to make his first appearance in connection with the charges that he is facing, the federal charges in connection with this alleged illegal gambling scheme. He is one of several people arrested in this operation that federal investigators detailed at that news conference just a little bit ago, where we left off before we went to break, getting ready to hear from Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, about their role in this and providing some more details. So let's go ahead and get you back to that news conference just a little bit ago in New York.
Thanks, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ricky Patel. I'm the Special Agent in charge for Homeland Security Investigations here in New York. This morning, hundreds of special agents and investigators with HSI, the FBI, the New York Waterfront Commission, and the NYPD descended upon the homes of individuals who for years have operated with the false sense of impunity, a false sense of incivility. In the early hours of today, across 9 states coast to coast, dozens of defendants were arrested and will face the consequences of their alleged crimes. This was their wake-up call. With the alleged involvement of 3 La Cosa Nostra crime families, 1 NBA head coach, a Hall of Famer, no less, and former NBA players, the years of investigative work that culminated with this morning's operation seem reminiscent of a Hollywood movie. But this wasn't luck, and this wasn't theatrics. This was an evidence-driven, relentless, and unified effort among law enforcement. Through what we have dubbed Operation Royal Flush, HSI New York, along with our task force personnel from the Waterfront Commission, first uncovered this scheme more than 4 years ago. Agents and investigators dedicated countless hours and sleepless nights in identifying the criminal network, dissecting communications and patterns, and following the money with precision. We built a case, piece by piece, and what we discovered was a sprawling criminal enterprise that utilized cutting-edge technology and various methods of deception to dupe unsuspecting gamblers into paying up so that these defendants could cash out. As alleged, this sophisticated conspiracy cheated victims out of at least $7 million and placed the public and the defendants enterprises from the inside out. When criminal organizations attempt to launder profits through our country, HSI connects the dots and shuts it down. To anyone who thinks intimidation, fraud, or violence will shield their profits, understand this. If you are exploiting our communities, expect HSI and all of our law enforcement partners at your door. I would like to thank all our partners here today. Obviously, the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York, the Waterfront Commission, the FBI, the NYPD, and the prosecutors that will carry this forward. Today's arrests are not an endpoint. They are the start of accountability. Thank you, and I now turn it over to Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch.
Good morning. Thank you to Director Patel, Assistant Director Rea, and U.S. Attorney Nocella. What we're announcing today is not just another takedown. It's the result of more than 2 years of coordinated investigative work by the NYPD's Joint Organized Crime Task Force and the FBI. 2 cases that exposed criminal networks led by 34 individuals who believed the rules did not apply to them. They hid behind layers of complexity, behind money, and behind influence, believing those things would shield them from accountability. The first case, Operation Nothing But Bet, exposed a gambling ring built around professional basketball, where players and associates allegedly used inside information to manipulate prop bets on major sports betting platforms. They placed wagers on unders on players to score less, rebound less, assist less, using information that was not yet public. In some instances, players altered their performance or took themselves out of games to make sure that those bets paid out. One example occurred on March 23, 2023, in Charlotte. Terry Rozier, an NBA player now with the Miami Heat, but at the time playing for the Hornets, allegedly let others close to him know that he planned to leave the game early with a supposed injury. Using that information, members of the group placed more than $200,000 in wagers on his under statistics. Rozier exited the game after just 9 minutes, and those bets paid out, generating tens of thousands of dollars in profit. The proceeds were later delivered to his home, where the group counted their cash. As the NBA season tips off, his career is already benched, not for injury, but for integrity. As a result of this investigation, 6 defendants, including Rozier, are now facing conspiracy to commit bank and wire fraud. In a second case, Operation Zen Diagram, investigators uncovered a long-running scheme in which members and associates of several well-known organized crime families rigged high-stakes poker games across the country. These operatives included capos and multiple soldiers from the Bonanno, Gambino, Lucchese, and Genovese crime families. Bringing 4 of the 5 families together in a single indictment is extraordinarily rare. It reflects how deep and how far this investigation reached, and the skill and the persistence it took to get here. That work uncovered a deliberate, technologically sophisticated operation designed to carry out their crimes. They used custom shuffling machines that could read the order of cards, barcoded decks, and hidden cameras built into tables and light fixtures. The organizers also enlisted well-known public figures, former and current NBA players and coaches, including Chauncey Billups, the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, an NBA champion and a Hall of Famer, to make the games appear legitimate. Victims believed that they were sitting at a fair table. Instead, they were cheated out of millions. One victim in particular lost $1.8 million. In total, losses exceeded $7 million and continue to climb. And when people refused to pay, these defendants did what organized crime has always done. They used threats, they used intimidation, and they used violence. It's the same pattern that we have seen for decades: traditional mob enforcement methods combined with new technology to expand the reach of their operations. Now, with the unsealing of today's indictment, 34 individuals are facing charges including robbery, extortion, money laundering, wire fraud, bank fraud, and illegal gambling. I want to commend the outstanding work of our detectives from the Joint Organized Crime Task Force and their dedication to these cases, especially Captain Ruben Pagan, Sergeant Chris McGuire, Detective Alexander Creamer, Detective James McCullough, and of course our Chief of Detectives, Chief Kenny. As part of these investigations, our members recovered and reviewed thousands of hours of video, conducted extensive surveillance on illegal gambling locations across the city, and executed more than 24 search warrants on electronic records that revealed the true extent of this conspiracy. Once again, the work of our detectives, together with the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office, closed those gaps before they could widen further. The NYPD is proud to stand with each of you today, as these cases represent the kind of partnership that defines modern law enforcement agencies, sharing intelligence, coordinating resources, and moving as one team. Thank you.
If anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask, now is the time.
I had a question about the structure of the case. Is it the investigation into one case, did that lead into the discovery of the other? Can you talk more about the link between the two?
I'm not at liberty to discuss either the background of the investigation itself or the investigation as it continues. So I'm afraid I can't really explain to you other than the fact that both cases have been unsealed today, and there was an overlap that has been discussed already with respect to certain of the defendants. Yes.
Chauncey Billups claimed that he had a gambling addiction. Did Rozier or Billups or Damon Jones claim the same thing at all?
With respect to any allegations or defenses that have been made by any of the defendants, They will have their opportunity to present them in court. We're not here to air those at this time or to discuss them. Yes? As I said, I can't discuss ongoing investigations. The investigation is ongoing, which by definition means that there will be further evidence uncovered at a minimum, and there's always that possibility, but I can't comment any further with respect to that. Yes?
Thank you. Director Patel, you had said in your comments, we're going to take heat for this case. Why do you say that, and what efforts might you take to counter that?
It's not popular to go after some of the defendants that we went after today, but justice is served blindly. And how do we countermand that? Simple. The unsealing of these indictments today shows the force of the Department of Justice and our great Attorney General and the leadership that we have at the FBI and the team here to specifically mete out justice. And look, let's not, mince words. This is the insider trading saga for the NBA. That's what this is. That's why we are going to take heat. But as the evidence comes out, as the indictments are unsealed, you will see the extensive work these men and women put in, countless hours over years, and that's how we countermand it.
Director Patel, so the dates on these indictments that they were filed are October 9th and October 16th. Can you talk about the timing of moving in now? Why now?
We will not publicly discuss the timing of when we do takedowns. I will only say that we do takedowns in a coordinated fashion with our law enforcement partners and the U.S. Attorney at the appropriate time to make sure that we ensure the integrity of the investigation, as the United States Attorney said, an investigation that is very much ongoing.
Director Patel, you said insider trading for the NBA. What are the implications of this case for other sports leagues and for the legal gambling industry in general?
Simple. If you're participating in the legal gambling industry, you got nothing to worry about. If you're participating in illegal conduct, you got everything to worry about, and this case shows it.
Did the illegal conduct cross with the legal sports betting platforms in any capacity? And if so, is that the search warrants that the police commissioner just referenced?
I'm not sure I quite understand your question. You're asking if the illegal conduct...
If it crossed with, like, the sports betting industry or the online sports betting?
The sports books themselves are victims in this case. They themselves did not, as far as our investigation has concluded, they did not perpetrate anything unlawful.
Are you able to say which sports books or online outlets they use to make these bets?
I'm not going to respond to that at this time, but that information will be made public. Yes?
Can you identify the access point where these co-conspirators were able to recruit these, famous people to partake in the schemes?
When you say the access point,
Were able to recruit them?
I'm not sure which case you're referring to.
Both. So
Well,
Rozier, how he was recruited, Damon Jones in the NBA scandal, and then Billups for the poker game.
we're not at liberty to say that at this time. That will be revealed in due course. Yes?
He was being...
What is your question, sir?
Hey, thanks for being here. You just said that the sports books themselves are the victims, at least in the indictment involving Terry Rozier and others.
They're among the victims.
Okay, but those companies make, as we all know, they make a crazy amount of money off of a lot of everyday Americans make bets and mostly lose them. Are you concerned with a jury potentially not being sympathetic in a case where the victims, as you say, are these multi-million or billion-dollar gambling companies?
Let me repeat that all of the defendants themselves are presumed innocent. We believe that at a trial, when they have the opportunity to present their defenses, if they chose, because they're not required to, we will come forward with the evidence to demonstrate their guilt. Yes?
There's been, I'm sorry.
Did the NBA cooperate with this investigation at all?
The answer to your question is yes, the NBA has cooperated with the investigation. Yes, sir.
There's been reason to believe there's an associated college basketball element to this. Can you confirm that, or is there another
investigation or part of this investigation that will affect college basketball?
The investigations that we announced today did not involve college basketball.
Last question, last question.
Yes.
There was an emphasis on the Italian crime presence, organized crime in New York. Can you give us a sense of the strength and status of Italian organized crime in New York right now?
No, I'm sorry. That would be a question that goes beyond what we're here to discuss today, which is these two indictments. Thank you.
The U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, the FBI Director, another number of other federal officials as well in New York just a little bit ago discussing the indictments that have been unsealed, a number of arrests made in connection with illegal gambling schemes. The one that has certainly gotten our attention here in Florida, the arrest of Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, who was in Orlando at the time he was arrested, we have learned. The Heat were in Orlando last night to play the Magic at Kia Center. The Magic winning that game. It was the season opener for those two teams. And Rozier now expected in federal court, not too just down the street from Kia Center this afternoon. 2:30 is when he's supposed to make that initial appearance this afternoon. We learned some interesting details in that news conference. One thing I wanted to highlight was an example that we were given of one of these incidents and how, according to investigators, these people involved were able to use non-public information to kind of manipulate prop bets and some other gambling through sports books. And so one example that was given was back in March of 2023 when Rozier was with the Hornets, telling a number of folks that he planned to leave the game early with a planned injury. They subsequently, according to investigators, bet the under on his points and a number of other statistical categories. Then he left that game just about 9 minutes in, I believe they said. So just one example of what we are talking about here when it comes to this illegal gambling scheme. A number of others kind of caught up in all this, including Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups, who had a long and very successful Hall of Fame basketball career as well. So we're still kind of at the very beginning of this and figuring out what the fallout is from this investigation. And we are continuing to work on this story, get some new details for you and some new perspectives as well on how something like this went down. So keep it here on Fox Local throughout the day. We will also hopefully have updates from federal court, because you're not allowed to have cameras inside federal court. So we won't know exactly what happens inside the courtroom, or we won't be able to bring that to you live, but we will have a reporter inside the courtroom. Again, that's scheduled for 2:30, so we'll check in with Matt Trezza a little bit later as well. He's going to be inside the courtroom, so we'll touch base with him in our 2 o'clock show, and we'll see. This is the big story today. We're going to continue to follow up on it. I do need to go ahead and take another break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back with more after this, so keep it here on Fox Local and on YouTube.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday, almost afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. We are nearing the noon hour here, and we appreciate you joining us on what has already proven to be a pretty busy day so far. We are continuing, obviously, to monitor the situation involving the indictment of some connected with the NBA, including an NBA player, a Miami Heat player, who was arrested in Orlando, due in federal court this afternoon. We are going to shift gears here for a little bit, though. Want to talk with you about the case of Jennifer Kesse. We're getting closer now to 20 years since she first disappeared down in Millennia at the January 24th, 2006, the day she was last seen. In the time since her disappearance, the case went cold. Her father had fought for years and ended up getting some of the documents related to the case because they believed that police had botched that investigation and not done it right since the very beginning. He had a team of retired law enforcement look through those documents. FDLE ended up taking up the case a couple of years ago, and since then, he says they've been making a lot of progress. FDLE says the case is no longer considered cold. They continue to get leads and a number of advancements in this case, and Drew Kesse, the father of Jennifer Kesse, told me this morning that he believes they are closer now in getting their answers and finding Jennifer than they ever have been before. So I sat down with him just a little bit ago to talk with him, not just about the status of this case, but also about some rumors that have been going around on social media that he wanted to clear up, and where things stand with all of this. This is my conversation with Drew just a few minutes ago.
Well, first of all, yesterday we got a lead that came across, I think it was Instagram, that was just totally absurd. That kind of set the internet off. Someone had written that DNA testing had been performed and it came back to a construction worker that was in South America or something like that, and FBI was extraditing that person. It's totally false. Unfortunately, people do a lot of really bad things on the web, and it's been done to us for 20 years almost. But what I was writing basically was, I had noticed that I had not updated Jennifer's social media since her birthday in May, and I do like to keep folks up to date. In July, we had the opportunity to sit with the FDLE team, and they gave us an update on Jennifer's case, and that's out there. I have to be honest with you. I've done interviews and I've written about it before, except actually putting it out on her social media. And basically, what I stated was that FDLE is going fast and furious. Everything is being put on Jennifer as far as resources are concerned. They do not consider her case cold anymore. They have so much work to do, and they are working diligently towards a finality. They have basically knocked a lot of people of interest out and are only down to a few, which we think is exciting. And it's moving along. It's never been at this pace before for our family and for Jennifer. And you can see the excitement in the investigators' voices and faces. And we're excited that, we're not at Jennifer yet, but we're excited we're finally going in the right directions, that people are being knocked out, people still need to be talked to, things are becoming clearer, so to say. So I wanted to bring everybody up to date on that, since Jennifer's social media wasn't up to date, but that seemed to cause a little bit of an uptick, so to say.
And you talk about the social media kind of rumors that go around too. I would imagine that is one of the kind of tensions in social media, because it can be so helpful in getting out the message, but then you see some of those other things go around that are difficult, I'm sure, to kind of hear and deal with.
Well, yeah, Joyce and I are kind of at the point, when that came across, I cared for about 30 seconds. And as soon as I got with my people and it was just bullshit, we just kind of went on with life. It's something that occurs on a very regular basis with us. I don't think people understand that to this day, 19 and a half years later, we get leads every week. We get things happen to us directly every single week. Still, it's never stopped. And we've become a little bit numb to it, but it hurts inside. There's a subliminal anxiety that will go on. But we've kind of, through psychologists and everything else, kind of learned how to deal with that on a daily basis.
Case no longer cold, as we've talked about. You talk about the efforts that are ongoing with this. It sounds like investigators keep you pretty up to date on how things are going with this case.
Yeah, I do. We had an opportunity in the end of July to actually sit down with our lead investigators on the case for almost a whole day. And we basically went through everything, where they are, what they need to do, and things such as that. And again, we're not close to Jennifer, but we sure are going in the proper direction. There has been nothing that FDLE has asked for that they have not received. Everyone's in on it. This is Jennifer's chance right now, and it's her best chance. And over the 19 years, we've not had this type investigation, and we're very thankful. Even though it took 19, well, they started 2 years ago, basically, but it's going the proper way, and we truly believe that, I don't know, maybe a year or 2 years, we'll actually find out what happened to Jennifer. I don't think there's a realm of possibility that we walk away the rest of our lives right now not knowing what happened to Jennifer.
What do you think has made the difference in kind of getting to this point where you say you've never been this close?
Right. We have screamed for years that Jennifer's case only needs to be worked. And as we found out when we won the files from Orlando Police Department, Jennifer's case was not worked on for 7 years. Not a single thing was written for 7 years until FDLE took it over. And that has been extremely prohibitive. It wasn't done correctly from the start. We all know that. We all have to live with that. We all accept that, and we all move on with our lives with that. But then you have this big gap of, we had leads coming in for 7 years that were never worked. And we were told that they were worked. And now we have people who are willing to do the hard job 17 and a half years later when they started to put it all together. And they are putting it all together because, as we said, it just needed to be worked. The answers are there. And they believe the answers are there also. So things are moving forward in a positive way. And basically, we hope that it ends with at least finding out what happened to Jennifer. That's all we expect out of this. Just Jennifer. That's all I'm looking for. And we know it's not going to be good in the end, but we need to have our daughter.
And after all these years, what would that mean to have those answers finally?
Well, I've said before, I'm just a believer that I don't think anyone missing should go unfound. And to have a family, to have a daughter taken, physically taken, and not know anything for 20 years and maybe forever, that's hard to cope with. So as long as we can do the due diligence, and we may end up at the end here that FDLE does everything in their power, and they've done every lead, and we still don't have answers. But at that point, we know that the work had been done, because to this point, the work has not been done. It's being done now. So that's our hope. And we know it's fruitful. They're telling us that it's fruitful just by doing the work. So we do have great hopes, and they have great hopes of truly finding out where Jennifer is. And all we need is just a piece of Jennifer. We just need to know where Jennifer is and bring her home where she belongs, and that's it.
And you're continuing to keep, her story out there as well. And I know also another documentary project underway. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was really crazy. After May, after Jennifer's birthday, I I don't know what happened, but the world of media came out. We did interviews all over the world. I did for 3 days. All I did was sit here and do interviews, and nothing was special. We don't reach out to media anymore, and it just happened. And we had three production groups come forward asking to do a documentary. So then I had, my work to do to see who would best fit with us. And we picked a production group that is in work right now, and we hope to have that out in a meaningful way for a television audience, hopefully for January. It's moving along quite well right now, and we'll see how it all ends up. But we do have a documentary that we are working on to bring to the masses to let people know exactly what has happened over the 20 years Jennifer was taken.
Why is that important to you to have that story out there and for people to learn more about who Jennifer was?
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. It's a tough thing to do. It just like yourself this morning. I've had a lot of people reach out to me today. Please do an interview. I don't want to do interviews. I have to be honest with you. I think I said no right up front. And I've said no to everyone right up front. And fortunately, I guess, you people keep coming back to us. And all of you have been so good to this family and to Jennifer over 20 years that I'm going to sit here and tell you what I know. I don't hold back anything. Everything I tell you is the truth of what's going on and up to date. So it's more or less that, thank goodness the people out there want to know what's going on, and we're willing to still share it with them.
Okay, well, what's the bottom line here, Drew? What do you want people to know? What's the takeaway here?
I want people to know that Jennifer is still missing, that we are moving in a very fruitful direction. And please, if you do know something, please get with FDLE, get on our social media sites. We'll get it right to them. Jennifer, as well as everyone missing, deserves to be found. We're all human beings. We don't deserve to be taken. We don't deserve to be killed. And it's just, I think it's human nature that it's against human nature what happened to Jennifer. And we just simply want her back in any shape, manner, or form that we can have her so we can take care of her properly as her family.
Yeah, we certainly hope her family gets those answers. As I said, it's kind of encouraging to see the progress that investigators seem to be making with this, and so hoping for some answers for them soon. And as you heard them say, that the documentary should be out in early 2026 as well. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back with more after this. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Some breaking news here. I just want to give you this update just into our newsroom. A statement from the NBA in response to the announcements from the Department of Justice and the FBI of the arrest of Chauncey Billups, the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers, and Terry Rozier, a guard with the Miami Heat. This is the statement. I'm just going to read it to you here. It's brief. It says, "We are in the process of reviewing the federal indictments announced today. Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups are being placed on immediate leave from their teams, and we will continue to cooperate with the relevant authorities. We take these allegations with the utmost seriousness, and the integrity of our game remains our top priority." So that's a statement from an NBA spokesperson in response to our request asking about the arrest of Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups. Rozier, of course, arrested in Orlando after the Magic and Heat game last night. He did not play during that in that game, and now facing charges, federal charges, due in court in 2:30 at the federal courthouse in Orlando. In fact, I can give you a live look at that courthouse right now. So we're continuing to follow up on this, and we'll have more details throughout the day for you, but wanted to give you that update from the NBA, their statement saying that they are on immediate leave, continuing to cooperate. And that is something that we heard from officials speaking during that news conference just a little bit ago in New York, saying that the NBA has cooperated with their investigation as this continues to move forward. They say they expect that to continue, as we heard from the spokesperson from the NBA as well in that statement. Let me give you a live look right now at the U.S. Capitol. It is day 23 of the government shutdown. Another failed vote in the Senate yesterday for a funding agreement. The 12th time now that those votes have failed, or passing some sort of funding bill has failed. The latest vote was 54-46. 3 Democrats again joined Republicans, but we're not seeing any new Democrats across the aisle. It's kind of staying the same. That same number, that same gap still remains as we try to find some sort of agreement or something to happen to get the government back open. For Democrats, the big sticking point is health care, wanting the extension of those Obamacare tax credits to try to prevent costs from going up quite so much. Now, Congressman, I should say, Maxwell Frost, a Democrat from Orlando, was on Good Day Orlando this morning to talk about where things stand with the shutdown. And here's his conversation with Fox 35's Ryan Elijah.
So, Congressman, always good to be with you. Thank you. Let's start with where you think things stand. Obviously, this is playing out in the Senate, but it's a much bigger issue. Where do things stand right now?
Well, right now, the House has been out of session for nearly a month. Which to me is unacceptable, right? The government is shut down. We need to get back to work. I've been going back to D.C. every single week, even though we haven't been in session, to try to figure out who we can work with to get the government back open. But this entire thing surrounds healthcare right now. And so people really understand at the end of this year, the Affordable Care Act enhanced tax subsidies expire. What does that mean? It means that for about 1.9 million Floridians, they're going to see their healthcare go up anywhere from 50 to 300%. That's about 189,000 people in my district alone. So that's why this is such an important battle and fight that we're in right now. What's going on in the Senate? Look, if you try to get a bill passed 12 times and it doesn't pass, it's time to go back to the drawing board, negotiate with folks. And the problem is the president doesn't want to negotiate with us right now.
They wanted to get where military families were paid on this. Why would Democrats not support that, do you think?
We support making sure military families can get paid. In fact, we asked Speaker Johnson to bring the House representatives back so we can vote on a bill to do that very thing. He put out a letter that people can look up that said the House representatives will not go back into session, not even to allow our troops to get paid until the government is open. But my question is, how do we get the government open if half of Congress isn't going to work?
But the House would say, look, the House did their part. The Senate now is not getting to 60. They're the ones holding things up. I mean, you guys can come back. They still have to hit 60. What about that argument?
Well, what we said is we want to come back at least to make sure that our military troops are getting paid. That's what we asked to do about 2 weeks ago, and that's when the Speaker said we're not coming back even to vote on something like that. As far as the Senate is concerned, like I said, when you vote on something 12 times and it's not getting to the threshold, you come back to the drawing table. That's what Congress is about. You negotiate, you compromise, you work together. We've been talking about this for months. We've been saying at the end of this year, these tax subsidies expire, and when they do, healthcare is going to go up for 25 million Americans. And so, people in Central Florida have already been getting those letters as of October 1st. We're coming up on November 1st, which is open enrollment, which means working families are going to be signing up for health care next year that is in many cases 300% of what they pay now.
Yeah. Part of the problem, is the two sides are so entrenched. And Republicans will say the people that are not going to get health care under this plan that was passed before, they shouldn't be on the rolls. And so the two sides see even who should be covered differently. How do you bridge that gap? And should it be bridged outside of this, just with a continued resolution?
Well, what I think about in this moment isn't like political talking points. I think about the impact that people hear. I've been doing town halls around the district over the last 3 weeks, talking with people. People have been bringing their letters to me, showing me my health care is going up. I've had people who voted for Donald Trump, registered Republicans, show up to my events, call our office and say, my health care is going up too. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. This isn't about that. This is about the health care of our people. I believe in the richest country on the face of the earth, our people should have affordable health care. I don't think that's too much to ask for. And Congress has to do its job to make sure that's a thing. And that's what this whole government shutdown is about right now. What we're saying is we're not going to vote for a bill that's going to take away health care or raise health care prices for 25 million people when we're in the middle of an affordability crisis in this country. So bring Congress back. We're asking the Speaker, bring us back to work. We haven't been voting in Congress in nearly 30 days. Let's work on a bipartisan solution. We can get it done in one day.
Let's hear from the president real quick. I want to get your response to his soundbite here.
Today I'm calling on every Senate Democrat to stop the madness, to let our country get back. In the greatest moment in the history of our country in terms of wealth, these guys go on strike. It's really a shame.
So let me ask you that. Republicans are blaming Democrats in the Senate for shutting down the government for this issue. How would you respond?
Well, the way I would respond is the last government shutdown happened when? It wasn't during Joe Biden's administration. It was during the Trump administration. Donald Trump said, I'm shutting down the government for the border wall. We fast forward 4 years, and now we're in a kind of similar situation, except this is over the tax subsidies that are essentially, if we don't do our job, people are going to see their health care costs go up. What the president's saying is he can talk all he wants, but the fact of the matter is he had a meeting with both Democratic and Republican leaders a few weeks ago, as you might remember. That's the last negotiation they had. Now he's saying, I don't even want to talk to them. People have sent us to D.C. to work, to negotiate, to talk with one another.
But were some of these subsidies put in place in the COVID era that maybe should not still be in place now? Is that some of what Republicans have pointed to, saying there are things in here that should not be in here?
There are some Republicans who say we shouldn't expand those subsidies. We disagree with that. And a lot of Republicans have been coming around. In fact, someone who I don't agree with on much of anything, Marjorie Taylor Greene, has come out and said the Democrats are right, we need to expand it. Why? Her own children received that letter. And people watching right now in Central Florida, thousands of people are getting those letters. I think, look, I ran for Congress not to bring up healthcare costs for people in Central Florida. I ran for Congress to bring down costs, to make things easier for working families. It's the hardest it's ever been to grow up as a young person in this country and save money to buy a home and get a job. It's the hardest it's ever been to be a working family in this country, to afford a home, to be able to send your kids to school. It's the hardest it's ever been in this country to be an older person trying to retire with dignity when you have Medicaid being stripped away, Medicare being chipped away, and now they want to chip away at the Affordable Care Act as well. We need health care for everybody. And what we're saying is this isn't even a North Star issue, right? Some of the things I believe in as a progressive. This is, let's keep the status quo that we have right now and not make it even worse.
I'm glad you brought that up, because the president said, I know we're over here, but he said that it's the far left that's pushing this on the Democrats. Do you believe that?
This isn't about the far left. This isn't even about Democrats versus Republicans. It's about the people versus the problem. The problem in this nation right now, the president said it, we have a lot of wealth in this country, and that's true. But the fact of the matter is most of the wealth belongs to the richest people in this nation. We have massive wealth inequality in this country, and we have to fix that to make sure people can afford to live. People are being priced out of our own city every single day. We heard about the traffic over in Champions Gate in Haines City area, 45 minutes. Why does that matter more and more and more? Because more of our people who were born and raised here are forced out, having to live an hour, 2 hours away. Why? Because life is too damn expensive in this country. And what we're saying is, let's not make it worse. They passed the Big Beautiful Bill Act, which takes away health care from 17 million people, will take away nutritional assistance from 5 million people. We disagreed with that. It's creating this healthcare crisis. We've already seen a nursing home close in Central Florida in Winter Park due to this type of legislation. What we're saying is, let's not make matters worse for working people. And if you disagree with it, bring us back to D.C. Let's debate. Let's have the negotiations. This is part of the reason people hate Congress. We know when the government shutdowns are coming. We know these dates. It always feels like a surprise online, but we know. And we've been bringing it up for months. Let's talk about it now. Let's talk about it now. The Speaker released the bill about 72 hours before we were to vote on something that we knew about for months. That's not how government should work. And so I hope we can get back to work. I hope they'll call us back so we can do it. If you disagree with us on making sure that we shouldn't raise healthcare costs for 25 million Americans, let's debate it. But we can't have this conversation over Twitter and online from, you know, the comfort of our own district because you refuse to bring us to work. So just at a bare minimum, bring the House back into session. Let's do it.
We got. I know we went long, but it's an important topic.
Yeah.
Always appreciate you coming in because it's an issue a lot of Americans are caught in the middle of. Let's hope they can figure it out as we're now reaching week 4. Congressman, good to be with you this morning.
That was a conversation a little bit ago. Give you a live look right now on the floor of the U.S. Senate. This is Ron Johnson, a Republican from Wisconsin, who is speaking right now. We did hear just a little bit ago from Florida's Senator Ashley Moody, who spoke on the Senate floor. Here is her remarks from just a little bit ago.
We are in day 23 of this shutdown, a shutdown that is sowing more uncertainty across our country by the day. It is one that is leaving our nation vulnerable to adversaries abroad and seeing our service members left wondering if their next paychecks will go through as they seek not only to protect us, but to support their families. A shutdown that my colleagues and I on the Republican side of the aisle voted for or against over a dozen times. We are trying to end this shutdown, yet we are blocked at every point. Along with a few, very few, courageous Democrats, we voted for a bipartisan continuing resolution to fund the government. The opposing Democrats do so while knowing they are voting against paying our troops for our security, against paying law enforcement for safety, and against paying so many other people that are necessary for critical functions. They vote no. Republicans have voted to eliminate future shutdowns, to pay our service members and other essential federal workers, and for a full year of funding our military. And yet each time, these same colleagues blocked the efforts. They have now resorted to outright obstruction. I am the newest U.S. Senator from Florida, one of the newest U.S. senators for our country. I've been here 9 months, and I am disgusted that we have colleagues coming in here voting against continuing funding, reciting poetry. They are putting poetry over paying our troops. Since my arrival in Washington, I have watched every single effort by the Democrats to oppose the will of the American people, to undo the outcome of the election, attempting to paralyze not only the administration, but our policy goals to get this country back on the right track. Now these tactics have evolved into obstructing government itself, to hold the pay of federal law enforcement and our military hostage, let alone the thousands of other federal employees who continue to show up and fulfill their duties without pay. Shockingly, even senators with states that have large federal workforces have set aside the interests of those families beholden to some radical agenda. I implore my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to remember the effects of this shutdown go well past the boundaries of D.C. In my home state of Florida, we're seeing crisis centers which serve veterans, law enforcement officers, first responders, some of our most vulnerable that encounter hardships, all because of colleagues have refused to open the government. In fact, I have committed to donating my salary every day the government is shut down to a crisis center in Florida because they are suffering as this continues to go on. The choice is simple for my colleagues at this point. Either you stand for this country, for our service members, and for actually governing this nation, or you stand against that. And finally, I want to take a moment to thank every single federal employee continuing to work without pay. Our service members, federal law enforcement officers, Coast Guard members, air traffic controllers, so many others, including our own staff, including the staff on the Senate floor that show up and stay up all night as the Democrats recite poetry. Thank you for showing up without pay. Thank you for your patriotism, your work ethic, your embrace of duty and commitment to this nation. Throughout history, it is the selfless work of patriots that help build and sustain this incredible country of ours. And I look forward to the day, Mr. President, when our colleagues on the other side of the aisle cease with their partisan games, that they put governing for the people back as their #1 priority, that they remember it is an incredible responsibility they undertook when they took the oath to become a senator. I hope they remember that they were trusted to do this in good faith on behalf of the people. And I hope that they join us in reopening the government. They join us in our bipartisan, clean, continuing resolution to reopen the government. That is the only way forward, and it is the sole path available to continue our work on behalf of the American people. Thank you, Mr. President, and I yield back.
Senator Ashley Moody, Republican from Florida, speaking on the floor of the Senate just a little bit ago as we are on day 23 of the government shutdown. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Here's a live look at the federal courthouse in Orlando. We are about 2 hours from now. Terry Rozier is expected to have his initial appearance in federal court to answer to the charges that were announced today by the Department of Justice. As he is one of several people indicted, facing charges, arrested in connection with this alleged illegal gambling scheme that we heard some details of just a little bit ago, where they were using some non-public information to get rich, essentially. And so we will continue to follow. Area here. 5 people accused of being part of a Colombian crime ring were arrested in Central Florida. According to investigators, this is a ring that spanned several Florida counties here, and deputies say these suspects posed as landscapers to get into people's homes and track the people they were going after, track their every move from business to home. Fox 35 spoke exclusively with one of the victims, and Fox 35's Amanda Ruiz has more on how this ring was busted.
Our businesses in Mills 50 are still on edge, even though those suspects have been caught, because the investigators told them that they were the ones who were targeted. Now, the suspects accused of these crimes really thought that they were going to be able to get away with this, because they even had the audacity to meet up with each other at their meeting point after committing one of these crimes. Little did they know that deputies were following them and were onto them, and that's where they were going to be arrested. Take a look at your screen. These are the 5 people that are now behind bars with ICE detainers. As deputies say, they are undocumented. They are accused of being part of a Colombian crime ring, specifically targeting the homes of Asian business owners. The report claims their crime speed spanned Hillsborough and Osceola counties in addition to Orange County. We're told it was the Hillsborough County deputies who first caught up to them during this string of burglaries. Now, investigators say the group would spend weeks watching closely with their targets before moving in, using these trail cams that Orange County deputies uncovered during their investigation. So, how did they do it? Well, the sheriff's office caught one of their crimes on drone video and saw they disguised themselves as landscapers. Deputies saw them make up on the video, breaking into the back door, and about 30 minutes later, they left with bags full of stuff. Now, we spoke exclusively to one of the homeowners who was a victim of their crimes. She says they stole $30,000 worth of items, and she says she still doesn't feel safe, even though they're behind bars.
I don't know how they follow me. I can't even eat and sleep. Even now, I'm still nervous.
Now, as for that homeowner, police did tell us that she was able to get her valuables back. Sending it back to you in studio.
And so disturbing details there. Also disturbing details about this other case that we've learned, where a man was arrested for stalking and accused of tracking a woman by putting his AirPods in her car. You know, those AirPods have, like many devices, have a kind of a way to track them, to find them if you were to lose them. But this woman, according to investigators, found out she was being stalked and tracked by a notification on her phone. Fox 35's Chancellor Wynn spoke with Matt Rose, who's the CXO of Tech Rage IT and one of our regular guests here on Fox 35 News Plus. He talked about how those devices can be used to track people and how you can stay safe from tracking schemes when it comes to new technology with features like this.
You're an IT guy. When you hear about this stuff, AirTags, AirPods, different electronic devices tracking people, what kind of pops into your mind?
It really just, unfortunately, it's that, you know, these devices were started meaning like to be great devices, like, you know, AirTags were meant to, like, so you don't lose your wallet and things like that, you know, and AirPods, I mean, everybody thought it was great because you could have headphones in and just walk around, nobody, you know, you don't have to think about it. But it unfortunately just highlights that, you know, bad people in all ways will find a good thing to turn bad. And it's unfortunately, as an IT and security person, that's what we see all the time. Everything that's made for good can unfortunately be used for bad things as well.
What pops, I doesn't pop in my mind, but I don't know if funny is the right word, but when people like me who are not, you know, I know some things, but I'm not a big IT guy by any means.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I always think about, like, yeah, making sure your computer secure, your phone secure, change your passwords. Well, now it's like, how do you make sure that you are secure from the technology? You mentioned to me maybe a couple of apps, things like that. Well, what can someone do maybe if they are thinking, hey, I might be getting tracked right now?
Yeah, it's tough to, you know, protect against everything, and that's one thing from a security standpoint. You know, you can do the basic stuff like you talk about passwords and such. Things like this, like, first off, I would hope not many people are being tracked, but there are some apps out there by default, you know, for AirTags and AirPods. You know, the iPhone does have that built-in kind of feature where it'll tell you if something's near you. Android devices in the Play Store, there's a variety of different apps that kind of do the same thing, and also ones that will scan for Bluetooth. That if you have the suspicion, or, you know, you think something's going on, or or if you're just a nervous person and, you know, want to look at things, there are ways you can kind of try to, you know, protect yourself as best you can that way.
Seems like the best thing to do might be, if you are super suspicious, go to the police. They'll help you out, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's I think if you really are super suspicious, definitely go to the police, tell them what's going on. I think, you know, you got the old school, you know, like restraining order kind of things. And, you know, these devices, you know, from what I can tell, aren't in the same kind of aspect of the encryption that a phone has, that, you know, have been in the, you know, in the news over time when law enforcement wants to, you know, get into a phone. These are more it does appear there's ways that law enforcement can get involved and try to find out ownership of these devices. So yeah, I think you definitely want to just go to the law enforcement if you think of any sort of a real issue with being, watched or followed. I think what I would say is the only other thing is it's kind of the thing that you got to realize in the world we live in. We're in a technology-based world. There's really not any job or any function anymore that you don't touch and use technology all day, and that comes with a price. There's great parts of technology. There's amazing things we couldn't do 6 months ago, 6 years ago, whatever. But it also means that there's danger. It's just you're always on. You're always on the internet. You're always connected to something. And so I think it's just really thinking about what could happen based upon what you're getting yourself involved with technology.
Yeah, maybe it's like the best thing to say is like be aware of the possibilities. Be alert, be on your toes.
Yeah, you have to. You got to do your research. You got to realize what you're doing, what the kids are doing, what your parents are doing. Anyone that's using technology, it's exhausting, right? But I guess that's the price we're paying for all this cool technology, right?
And we're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus. We'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I want to give you a live look right now in the briefing room of the White House, where we expect Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, to hold a White House press briefing scheduled for 1 o'clock. We know that doesn't always start right on time, so we'll be monitoring for that and anxious to hear some of what they have to say coming up in just a little bit. So we're standing by for that coming up around 1 o'clock or so, and we'll take you there when it does begin. Well, city leaders in DeLand say they are considering a crackdown on e-bikes. We've talked about this issue around the area quite a bit because a number of communities are taking some steps or considering some steps to address this problem. They're seeing some serious crashes involving e-bikes, especially when it involves kids a lot of times. And so there are some of the proposals in DeLand are kind of looking at several different aspects of this. Some of them include taking e-bikes off the sidewalks, but only allowing e-bikes on the roads where the speed limit is 35 miles an hour or less. Their proposal there also would ban kids under 12 years of age from using e-bikes in the city of DeLand. DeLand City Commissioner Kevin Reed was on Good Day Orlando this morning to talk about the proposals and why something needs to be done.
This is an important topic, not just in DeLand, but really across the country. Cities are battling this issue where kids are not being safe. It's impacting people on the roads. It's impacting the kids themselves. Why is this so important that DeLand gets this under control?
Well, I think the big thing really is to kind of take a step back as well. And really what DeLand has really initiated is a lot of education programs. There's a lot of information out about e-bikes and, the different levels of capabilities that they have. And some are really good, but a lot of times when we're seeing a lot of these issues, it's not necessarily with e-bikes, it's with these e-mopeds, which are actually illegal for kids to ride.
Wow. Okay. So by putting rules into place, how do you then enforce them?
Yeah, no, that's the biggest thing whenever you look at any rule to be put in place. Our biggest focus is on safety, and what does that look like? By any means, we do not want to prevent families from going out on rides with their kids. Some of these lower level e-bikes really help to extend, what a child can, keep up with their parents for those long rides. DeLand has invested a lot into our trails in our area, and we really like having people enjoy our outside, especially in this time of year. It's beautiful out. So really it's a focus on safety and how we can communicate with our kids and parents and really hone down on wearing a helmet, paying attention to traffic and whatnot. So our police department has started a campaign online and are actually going to be going out to our schools to really hone down on what kind of safety can be done and hopefully prevent a lot of accidents from happening.
Would it be helpful for city commissions like yours if the state implemented some statewide rules so that every municipality doesn't have to do it on their own?
Well, the state does have some rules and regulations put in place for different levels. Like I said, it becomes very difficult when you start dealing with these electronic motorcycles that a lot of times you see kids doing wheelies, or I know that's in our neighborhood, we have that issue quite a bit. And those are already regulated. Those require you to have a learner's permit and when you're talking about e-bikes, there definitely is potentially a conversation to have, especially when you're looking at your level 3 bikes, which go up to 28 miles an hour. But I think from any regulation, I think we're in that learning phase as well before we really hinder, like I said earlier, from families enjoying our outdoors.
Right, absolutely. It's a balance. I totally understand that. Let's talk about when you guys think might vote on this, and then whether or not you think this will pass.
Yeah, so what we really have charged, our police department is one to, continue to educate the public, but then also to bring some more information and to educate our officers on what they can already enforce, because there's a lot they can do already when it comes to enforcement. So now, as far as any regulations, it'll be an ongoing process that we continue to have that conversation, and I look forward to having more information to be able to make those decisions.
All right, and just if everybody just be responsible, then it would make your jobs a lot easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, very much so. But wearing a helmet, being responsible, and parents being responsible for what kids are riding, definitely goes a long way.
So we'll see what ends up coming through with that. Again, as we talked about, this is an issue that a lot of communities are dealing with and trying to figure out how to regulate it, what to do, all those kinds of things. And you saw there some of the other municipalities that have taken some steps, including Palm Coast, a number of others that are continuing to work through this issue, as well as those e-bikes get more popular, and we see more and more of them on the trails, on sidewalks, on the streets, and that kind of thing. If you are a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, you may be looking forward to seeing that new stadium in downtown Jacksonville. It's going to be beautiful. They're calling it the Stadium of the Future. Construction has already started. The Jags are still playing at their current stadium in Jacksonville this season, next season as well. But in 2027, they're going to have to play somewhere else while crews kind of finish the job and the upgrades to that stadium there. And so we know that they're looking at a couple of different options, the Swamp in Gainesville, Camping World Stadium here in Orlando. That is one of the options, and there's a vote in the next few months, I guess, to kind of finalize that and see, because right now we still don't know where the Jags are going to play in that 2027 season. But one of the people who's part of this process is Steve Hogan. He's the CEO of Florida Citrus Sports, and he was on Good Day Orlando this morning to talk about where things stand.
I want to talk about this. As you know, UF looking at starting construction spring of 27. So I put a note on X that one would have to strongly think that's a big clue in the Jags playing at Camping World. Should we not read too much into that, and how do you respond to that?
I mean, I expect and want, of course, this town to enjoy NFL regular season football. It's been a goal of ours for many decades, and this is our opportunity. To have an entire season would just be an embarrassment of riches. I think it's the right idea for us, for the Jags, for the NFL, but it's not a high priority item in the NFL league meetings right now, right? They'll get to it when they get to it. We've done all that we can do in the background in terms of the agreement, kind of how the lease deal would work, all those kinds of things. As far as I'm concerned, we're just kind of waiting for a yes at this point, so I'd be excited to celebrate that.
Yeah, Steve, is it more a formality? Obviously, it's never a yes until it's a yes, and when could that decision be reached? The NFL's owners have met, but like you said, there's a lot on their agenda.
Yeah, they meet next in December 9, 10. They're not, again, in a huge rush. The owners will make this decision. I'm sure some want to understand how this market is impacted for other teams that love this market as well, but they'll get through that. So I expect by the end of the year, if not earlier here, we're going to know. And so I wouldn't say it's a formality. We got to continue to stay focused. We got to stay communicative. I communicate and talk with Mark all the time at the Jags, and to some degree talk to the league every now and again. And we want to get this done. We're excited to get this done. It's be a heck of a way to launch what's going to be an amazing new stadium in this town in 2027.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, Steve. We have talked about it a lot. I've seen the designs. And if the Jaguars do decide they're coming to Orlando, would it be a split maybe with London? How might that be broken up? Or are we still waiting to see the details?
Well, they always play games in London, as you know. Shad Khan has been pretty open about the fact that they're not just going to unpack and go to London with a tranche of their season. I think they like the idea of relocating for their season. They might play one more game in London. We don't know. We'll have to wait and let that play out. But I would expect we're going to have, 8 games here, maybe 7 if they took one extra game. But I don't think you're going to say them take 4, 5, 6 games to London. So, this is the best opportunity as far as...
Typical SSDI recipient is 56 years old and lives on just $19,000 a year to cover all of their needs, from health care to housing to groceries. Many worked physical blue-collar jobs that they can't do anymore and lack the training or capacity to take on new jobs. If Trump's massive restrictions on disability benefits go into effect, more and more people will be forced to claim Social Security retirement early. The result? They'll have no choice but to live on much less every month for the rest of their lives. That's a permanent reduction. And that's the most nefarious part. This isn't just an outright cut to disability assistance. It's a backdoor cut to regular Social Security benefits. We know that Trump and Republicans don't care about protecting the vulnerable. They only care about consolidating power and giving more handouts to their billionaire friends. That's why Trump's billionaire commerce secretary says that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme, not a sacred promise. It's why Republicans cut your health care by $1.5 trillion to deliver the same amount in tax breaks to the wealthiest 1%. It's why Republicans have no qualms about making life harder and less affordable for older Americans, people with disabilities, and others who struggle with Trump's rising costs. And it's why the government is shut down right now, as Trump refuses to negotiate with Democrats to slash soaring health insurance premiums that will hit Florida and Floridians harder than anywhere else. But Democrats in Congress are fighting back. I proudly led 165 Democratic members in the House of Representatives, that's more than 3/4 of our caucus, in denouncing Trump's assault on Social Security. But not a single Republican signed the letter. And I'll do everything in my power, not only to protect Social Security from Republican cuts, but to make benefits more accessible and make life more affordable for working families and retirees. El plan republicano implicaría un recorte del 100% en las prestaciones sociales para 400,000 estadounidenses mayores de bajos ingresos con discapacidad. Esta forma parte de la agenda del Proyecto 2025 para perjudicar a las personas vulnerables y así dar más ayudas a los multimillonarios. ¿Por qué Trump puede permitirse rescatar a Argentina y pagarse 250 millones de dólares con fondos públicos, pero no puede permitirse ayudar a las familias con dificultades? Lidera a la mayoría de los demócratas del Congreso en la denuncia de los recortes de Trump a las prestaciones de la seguridad social. Desafortunadamente, ni un solo republicano se unió a mí para oponerme a esta traición. I'm grateful to be joined today by incredible friends who are bravely speaking out against Trump's efforts to cut Social Security benefits and trample people with disabilities. Their expertise and experience will help all of us understand how this bureaucratic regulatory decision is far more dangerous and harmful than it seems. Ire Diaz is the president and CEO of the Advocacy Network on Disabilities, an organization that champions the rights of individuals with intellectual, developmental, and other disabilities. Ire?
Good morning, and thank you for being here. My name is Ire Diaz, and I'm the president and CEO for the Advocacy Network on Disabilities. I am here today not just speaking as a disability advocate. This is a nonpartisan issue for me. I'm here as a voice for millions of Americans who depend on Social Security disability insurance and supplemental security income to live with dignity. These aren't handouts. They're earned benefits, part of a promise our country made to its workers. A promise that if you contribute, if you work hard, and life throws you a curveball, your nation will be there to catch you. That promise is under threat. The proposed changes to Social Security disability eligibility are not just a bureaucratic tweaks. They're a quiet, calculated attempt to cut people off from the help they have earned. These changes would strip away critical age protections and, according to independent analysis, lead to massive reductions in the number of people who qualify. That's not reform, that's abandonment. This is happening while over $1.5 trillion has already been slashed from Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP, and WIC. Programs that are lifelines for families, children, and seniors. Cutting Social Security access on top of that isn't just irresponsible, it's cruel. And it doesn't stop there. Staffing cuts at the Social Security Administration mean longer waits, fewer answers, and more people stuck in limbo. Some are waiting months, other years, for decisions that determine whether they can afford food, rent, or medicine. This isn't just a policy failure, it's a human crisis. We're calling on the Social Security Administration to stop these harmful measures immediately, preserve the protections that exist, modernize tools responsibly, and most importantly, rebuild the capacity to serve the people so that no one is left waiting in fear and uncertainty. Our communities are already facing rising costs, healthcare challenges, and economic instability. This is not the time to turn our backs on them. This is time to stand up for our neighbors, our families, and for every person who can't fight this battle alone. Social Security is more than a program, it's a promise, and we must keep it. Thank you for listening. Yo estoy hablando de la Agencia de Advocacy Network on Disabilities. Esta no es una situación que tiene que ver con partido o no partido. Esta es una situación que la ayuda que se le da a personas que tienen discapacidad está bajo ataque y no es responsable hacer eso en este momento, que estamos enfrentando crisis económicas y una gran inestabilidad. Las personas que aplican para este tipo de programa han trabajado toda su vida, han tenido empleos y hay algo que ha pasado en sus vidas que necesitan ayuda para poder vivir con dignidad. No es una caridad, es una responsabilidad que tenemos como sociedad para asegurarnos que todo el mundo viva con dignidad y en seguridad. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Ire. Next, I'd like to introduce Ken Goodfriend, who's with the Alliance of Retired Americans. The organization educates the public about critical issues facing older Americans and working families. Ken?
Thank you, Debbie. Good morning.
My organization here in Florida represents over 200,000 retired members. And it is very important for us that we keep Social Security benefits at their current level. We're also looking to expand Social Security benefits. Over 50% of our members rely on Social Security benefits as their sole source of income. Having them cut or reduced is going to put these folks in a lot of jeopardy. The closing of Social Security field offices makes that even a worse circumstance. Members who have children or family members who require Social Security benefits are going to find themselves waiting for a lot longer time to get answers, if they get answers at all. And it is very important for us to maintain the Social Security benefits at their current level. One of the key things that we have been fighting for over these many years is to scrap the cap, to try and eliminate the idea that once you reach a certain income level, you no longer have to pay into the Social Security system. That means that a great many of the residents in Florida stop paying into Social Security after they reach $100,000 and some odd. This is unconscionable. The people who are earning $500,000 or $1 million a year should be contributing more to the Social Security system than they are now. And we hope that Congress will see their way clear to raise that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ken. Last but certainly not least, we'll hear from a recipient of Social Security, Disability, and Medicaid, Simone Rodriguez. Simone lives with a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta, also known as brittle bone disease. Simone?
Good morning. First, I want to thank Representative Walterman Schultz's team, the staff of the Social Security Office, and the entire federal workforce for their tremendous sacrifices they and their families have made to hold the line so that we can stay in this fight to ensure dignity for all. As a recipient of SSI for over 10 years, I can and will testify to how the proposed cuts may affect my access to care in the future, as my Medicaid eligibility is contingent on SSI eligibility. But in light of the tens of thousands of Floridians who will be ineligible under the proposed changes, I thought it would be relevant to briefly share my experiences as a child and young adult living with a disability growing up without Social Security. Shortly after I was born, my parents attempted to apply for my SSI, but were told, perhaps erroneously, that they earned too much for me to qualify. My dad, now retired, was a 20-year NYPD sergeant detective, and as a city worker, he had access to what was considered excellent private insurance. And it was, for the most part, with the exceptions of coverage for home health care and for my wheelchair. Every year, we dreaded the nurse assessor's visit and the impending fight against cuts to hours, until, during my sophomore year of high school, the cuts were so severe that the home health nurse who had been with our family since I was 2 months old, who taught me how to read and write, who went to school with me every day and even uprooted her whole life to follow our family when we moved to Florida briefly for the first time, could no longer stay with our family. She was a single mom who had originally immigrated to the UK from Trinidad before settling in the United States, and she was already working nights in addition to working with me to help put her son through graduate school. She could no longer continue to make sacrifices for our family. The silver lining is that now he's a doctor and researcher in Canada. We're still working on me. We'll see how I turn out. Additionally, every few years, as my wheelchair began to break down, we began the arduous process of acquiring a new one, which included an automatic denial from the insurance company, several rounds of appeals, testimony from every doctor I've ever met, with our cases escalating to the State Insurance Appeals Board at least twice. All of this came to a head when, at 17, I moved 10 hours away to attend college in North Carolina. As I struggled to adapt to taking care of myself for the first time, on top of adjusting to the rigors of college life, my family watched helplessly from afar as my wheelchair also began to break down, barely able to function through a full day of classes and activities, and often stranding me alone at the most inopportune locations on campus. Meanwhile, in order to try to provide me with the additional support I desperately needed, my mom took on additional jobs and downsized us into a one-bedroom apartment in order to try to pay out of pocket for my services on top of our share of tuition. an enormous financial strain. It was then I had come to terms that I would need a greater level of care that could only be accessed through the Medicaid eligibility contingent on SSI. While it was by no means a magic wand, the security that the program provides and the services I can access through it are crucial to my ability to live an independent, dignified life. However, as I build my career and navigate life as a young professional, this administration's cuts threaten that security. Maintaining Social Security eligibility while working requires compliance with stringent reporting requirements, which overworked and understaffed offices, through no fault of their own, struggle to process in a timely manner. This increases the potential for human error, which can have devastating consequences, putting me at risk for losing my access to health care and forcing me to undertake the grueling application process again under these more restrictive criteria. It is also worth remembering that anyone can become disabled at any time, and when one group's access is threatened, no one is safe. I'm proud to sit in solidarity today with those directly threatened by the administration's cuts as we struggle together to ensure a dignified quality of life for all. Thank you.
Simone, thank you so much for your really incredible commitment to make sure that you can use your own experience for helping others, which you always do. So I'm not at all surprised that you're here, standing up strongly to advocate for folks who, just like you said, one day you could be the picture of health, and the next day you could face a devastating disability. We hear stories like that all the time in my district office, and I can tell you that having survived breast cancer at 41 years old, where one day I was the picture of health, the next day, after finding a lump when I was doing a self-exam in the shower, I became a breast cancer patient. When you go through cancer, cancer is an incredibly debilitating disease. On top of that, the course of treatment that you go through can make that even more challenging and can cause devastating disabilities, and the after effects, even upon survival, often result in diminished capacity. There's a review process for SSI and SSDI. Like I said, 2/3 of people who apply are rejected. But folks like Simone and so many others who don't necessarily have a very visible manifestation of their disability absolutely need to make sure, particularly the elderly, which is what the Trump administration is doing, proposing to cut off about 400,000 people who are now eligible for SSDI and SSI based on age. That's unacceptable. It's outrageous, and we need to make sure that folks communicate very strongly with the Social Security Administration that they want these rules rejected and that they not make these devastating changes. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Do you speak Spanish?
I don't speak Spanish fluently enough, but Ire can.
I don't speak.
No, but Ire does. Or maybe Ire can
Sort of. Maybe I can translate.
Maybe you can translate for Simone. You want to come up, Simone?
Yeah.
You can say it in English, and then she can try to translate for you.
We're gonna work together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Team effort.
Yep.
Can you tell me how does this cause affect you and your daily life?
So my biggest concern would be that the staff will, because they're so overworked, will make a mistake when I'm trying to comply with the reporting requirements, and then I would get erroneously kicked off, and then I would, with these new restrictive criteria, it's just making it harder to reapply, and it's a very lengthy process as well, so there's always a risk that I'm also going without care during this reapplication process, even if I am eventually.
Su gran preocupación es que con los cortes en el personal, el proceso, ella tiene que tener un proceso de aplicar y de reportar lo que está ganando porque trabaja, puede hacer un poco de trabajo y tiene muchas restricciones en el reporte, y esto puede causar que haya un error y le quiten los beneficios. Si le quitan los beneficios, ella no pudiera seguir trabajando porque eso eliminaría la ayuda y el apoyo que le dan.
It was just a little bit ago in Plantation. We are still standing by for the White House press briefing. We will bring that to you live when it does begin. Keep it right here on Fox Local. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Kara Weimer here, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon. Still waiting for the White House press briefing to begin. We do expect that to begin shortly. It's day 23 of the government shutdown. The Senate is conducting some votes right now about paying essential workers even as the shutdown continues. So something that we're watching as well at the Capitol. We did hear earlier today from House Speaker Mike Johnson, a number of other lawmakers in Republican leadership. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy was also at the news conference, as we heard from a Republican speaking about the ongoing government shutdown. I want to play that for you while we wait on Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt to come to the podium here.
I knew you were coming. I had to step it up.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 23 of the Democrat shutdown. And today, you all know, we have a special guest with us. We're delighted to welcome back to Congress U.S. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy. I enjoyed serving with him during my first few years here, and we're grateful he's serving our country in this very important position right now in these very challenging times. He's a very busy guy, but he'll give us a few minutes to give you an update here in just a moment. You'll hear directly from him about the very real and consequential ways that Americans are suffering right now because of the shutdown. I just wanted to give you a brief update, and then I'll turn it over to the Secretary. But by way of review, the reason that my colleagues and I have come in here every morning now during this painful Schumer shutdown is because we have to share the facts and we have to share the simple truth with the American people. And why is that? Because the Democrats are working overtime to try to hide those facts and to try to distract from the very simple truth here. They want you to forget that just 5 Senate Democrats could reopen the government today. All we need is 5 of them. They try to pretend that their counterproposal deal doesn't reinstate free health care for illegal aliens, $200 billion of taxpayer funds. They try to pretend that their counterproposal would not send billions of dollars in wasteful spending for social projects in foreign countries overseas. They don't want you to look at the facts. They don't want you to look at the paperwork that they themselves filed as the counterproposal. And they refuse to admit that this entire shutdown is one big political game to satisfy the radical Marxist base of their party. But that is exactly what is going on. And I want to be absolutely clear about this. Democrats would not have shut the government down this time if their political careers did not depend on it. And that is not some Republican talking point. That is the objective truth. If it wasn't already abundantly clear, the number 2 Democrat in the House yesterday openly admitted to that fact. Catherine Clark is the House Democrat whip. She works right under Hakeem Jeffries as the number 1 Democrat, and she was in an interview and she said to one of your colleagues sitting here on the front row, quote, "Of course there will be families that are going to suffer, but this is one of the few leverage times we have," unquote. It's shocking to hear them say that out loud. By her own admission, she knows that the American people are suffering. Democrats know that millions of federal workers are desperate for their paychecks. They know that thousands of flights have been delayed. They know that SNAP benefits and nutrition assistance for women, infants, and children are in jeopardy for millions of American families. And yet, they don't seem to care. But you know what? Take heart, America, take heart, because all your suffering is for a good cause. It's for the Democrats' political leverage. That's what the number 2 Democrat said here yesterday. It is utterly shameful. The obvious truth is that only a Democrat could get away with saying such abhorrent things without the media batting its eye. I guarantee you, if the tables were turned, if the Republicans were the ones holding the country hostage and openly admitting to it, it would be absolutely explosive. It would be wall-to-wall coverage, and everybody in this room knows that. Every single mainstream media outlet, every newspaper in America, every single day would have that on the top fold as the big headline. But of course, that's not what's happening right now. Coverage of all this has been sporadic. And
let me go ahead and get you now to the White House, where Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has come out to the podium. Let's go ahead and listen in.
Bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister of Malaysia in the afternoon, and then he will attend the ASEAN Leaders Working Dinner that evening. On Monday morning local time, the president will fly to Tokyo. Tuesday morning local time, President Trump will participate in a bilateral meeting with the new Prime Minister of Japan. On Wednesday morning local time, the president will fly to Busan, where he will participate in a bilateral meeting with the President of the Republic of Korea, deliver keynote remarks at the APEC CEO luncheon, and then participate in a U.S. APEC Leaders Working Dinner. On Thursday morning local time, President Trump will participate in a bilateral meeting with President Xi of the People's Republic of China before departing to return home to Washington, D.C. On Thursday night, upon arrival in Washington, President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump will participate in Halloween at the White House, where they will welcome law enforcement, military, and foster families. And I know many of us look forward to that. In other news, we are now on day 23 of the Democrat government shutdown. Senate Democrats have voted 12 separate times now to keep the government closed. Innocent Americans are suffering every day as a result. More than 500,000 civilian federal employees will miss a full paycheck tomorrow. Thousands of small business loans are going unapproved each month. This means almost $4 billion in capital is being withheld from small businesses across the country. The Democrat shutdown is also causing severe impacts at airports across the country. In one single day this week, the FAA had to issue ground stops impacting flights at Houston's George Bush Intercontinental Airport and Hobby Airport. 13,000 air traffic controllers who ensure that we all fly safely are continuing to work without pay. This is egregious and truly sad. Some of them are reportedly being forced to turn to driving for Uber and taking on other second jobs to make ends meet as the Democrats continue to shut down the government. Pilots are calling on Democrats to end this dangerous political game. The president of the Southwest Airlines Pilot Association called for the clean continuing resolution to be passed, saying, quote, "Our air traffic controllers and the broader air traffic system are already operating under immense pressure. A government shutdown only compounds that stress and threatens the efficiency of our skies." The Airline Pilots Association International, which represents more than 80,000 pilots, is sounding the alarm as well. They said this shutdown is undermining our system's safety. Resources are stretched thin, negotiations are delayed, and strain grows daily. With the Thanksgiving holiday approaching, we are nearing the busiest travel period of the entire year, when millions of Americans will go to airports to spend time with their loved ones. Let us be very clear from the White House today. If the Democrats continue to keep the government closed, we fear there will be significant flight delays, disruptions, and cancellations in major airports across the country this holiday season. If Democrats continue to shut down the government, they will also be shutting down American air travel. The White House is in constant communication with the air traffic controllers, with the airline associations, and with them, we urge Democrats to please pass the continuing resolution so we can just end this madness and this chaos and reopen the government. These are very avoidable consequences. The unnecessary pain, unfortunately, does not end there. Funding for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program known as SNAP, which provides food benefits to low-income families, is beginning to lapse this week in some states. If Democrats continue to hold Americans hostage, there will not be enough funds to provide SNAP benefits for more than 40 million Americans on November 1st. That is next week. Democrats are solely responsible for all of this unnecessary pain. Why are they doing it? To give taxpayer-funded health care benefits to illegal aliens, some of whom are violent criminals. During the 4 years of Joe Biden's administration, the Democrats forced Border Patrol to admit illegal aliens into our country with no legal status and minimal screening. A significant number of these individuals are the worst of the worst criminals: rapists, pedophiles, murderers, and even members of the terrorist watch list. Despite having no legal status, paroled aliens were able to file for work authorization, receive Social Security numbers, and access other benefits like Medicaid that are meant for Americans. Since I've found many in this room to repeatedly deny the reality that Democrats gave Medicaid benefits to illegals, and they continue to seek to do just that, I've brought a few verified examples for you today. These are examples of some of the illegals who received Medicaid benefits under President Biden's leadership, and this is what Democrats are wanting to do. This is why they are continuing to keep the government closed. An illegal alien from Laos was arrested for murder, robbery, and felony possession of a firearm. An illegal alien from Guatemala who was arrested for rape and burglary. An illegal alien from El Salvador who was arrested for strangulation, DUI, and burglary. An illegal alien from Mexico who was arrested for attempted murder. The Democrats' open border policies allowed these threats into our country, and then they provided them with free health care. The president and Republicans, through the One Big Beautiful Bill, implemented a common sense reform to end this fraudulent scheme. But that's why the Democrats are continuing to shut down the federal government. They are trying to reverse this and restore taxpayer-funded health care for illegal aliens like these. Throughout this shutdown, Democrats have said this quiet part out loud. Senator Chuck Schumer, the leader of the caucus that is refusing to open the government, said, quote, "Every day gets better as the shutdown continues." Ask the air traffic controllers if every day is getting better, Senator Schumer, and they will tell you absolutely not. House Democrat Catherine Clark said, "There are going to be families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility seriously, but this is one of the few leverage points that we have." Here is a House Democrat who is admitting that they are using Americans who are suffering as political leverage. And Senator Bernie Sanders said, "If you reopen the government, we lose our leverage." This is pure partisan games. A senior Democrat aide said the party will not end the shutdown, quote, "short of planes falling out of the sky." That is truly a disturbing statement. The Democrats clearly don't care about this suffering. They care about playing political games against President Trump, and this dangerous charade needs to end. The president and Republicans' position has been clear and unchanged. Pass a clean nonpartisan funding bill to reopen the government. And then we can talk about all of the partisan issues that the Democrats wish to. If you're watching at home, we urge you to call your Democrat senators and tell them to put our country over their party and reopen the government today. Here in our new media seat, we have Brittany Gibson of Axios. Brittany, why don't you start us off for our Q&A today? Thank you for being here.
Two questions, if I may, Caroline. First is, we understand that the president and Republicans will not negotiate on ACA extensions until the government reopens. If and when that happens, what does the president think should be, or what are his plans for preventing rising healthcare costs for Americans?
It's a very good question, and I'll leave that to the president to negotiate that when Democrats vote to reopen the government. When it comes to lowering healthcare costs, the president is deeply committed to this. It's why he has spent so much time and effort negotiating with Big Pharma to lower the healthcare costs of prescription drugs. All of you have been in the Oval Office for multiple different announcements. We've had these most favored nations deals with these large pharmaceutical companies committing to lowering drug costs in this country. So it's something the president wants to do. And Brittany, one more point. I'll just point out the irony in Democrats holding the government and the American public hostage over a healthcare system that they created. The healthcare system was called Obamacare. Why? Because Democrats and President Obama implemented. And Republicans have always said it's a broken system, yes, but they caused it, and now they want to shut down the government to fix it. We need to open the government, and then we can have these very important conversations about healthcare.
The second, on H-1Bs and foreign students, during the campaign, President Trump said he wanted to make it easier for foreign students to work at U.S. companies, staple a green card to every diploma. But the changes from several agencies now on H-1Bs are adding more obstacles to that. The administration is being sued over those changes. Can you explain the changes in the president's thinking on H-1Bs?
Administration will fight these lawsuits in court. The president's main priority has always been to put American workers first, and also to strengthen our visa system. We know for far too long the H-1B visa system has been spammed with fraud, basically, and that's driven down American wages. So the president wants to refine this system, which is part of the reason he implemented these new policies. These actions are lawful, they are necessary, and we'll continue to fight this battle in court. Garrett.
Two questions on different topics, if you'll
Sure.
indulge me. On the pardon of Changpeng Zhao, and apologies if I'm mispronouncing that name, Binance has significant business interests with World Liberty Financial, the president's family's crypto company. How do you respond to the allegations from Democrats that this is a corrupt act?
I would respond and say the president is exercising his constitutional authority to grant clemency requests. And the president and the White House have a very thorough examination of every pardon request that comes to the president's desk. It is thoroughly reviewed by the White House Counsel Office, and I spoke with our great White House counsel about the pardon after it happened. This was an overly prosecuted case by the Biden administration. Even the judge in the case admitted that the Biden administration was pursuing a egregious over-sentencing of this individual, and the previous administration was very hostile to the cryptocurrency industry. So the president wants to correct this overreach of the Biden administration's misjustice, and he exercised his constitutional authority to do so. And to the Democrats, I would just say there's nothing more corrupt than what President Biden did on his way out the door, pardoning his extremely corrupt son and many of his associates.
On the ballroom, first of which will probably be several questions about this today, I imagine.
Is it a big story?
It seems that way. The president's cost estimate has changed several times. I think it's up to $300 million now. Given the nature of all this, will the White House commit to releasing all of the donors and how much they're spending and how much of his own money the president is putting on the line to this?
We have released the full list of donors thus far. Perhaps there will be more people who want to generously contribute to this project. And the president, yes, has committed his own resources. And when he releases that information, which I'm very confident he will, you will all see that.
We'll see a dollar figure from the president?
Yes,
Okay.
he will. And I would also just add the president has been incredibly transparent. I would reject any notion otherwise when it comes to this ballroom project. It's something he personally has obviously taken an interest into and has talked with all of you in this room many times about. You have seen the model in the Oval Office. Last night he showed that for you. But when this plan was presented and when these renderings, as soon as they were complete, the president directed me to come out here and to share them with all of you. I did an entire opening remarks about what this ballroom project was going to look like. With any construction project, there are changes over time as you assess what the project is going to look like, and we'll continue to keep you apprised of all of those changes, but just trust the process. This is going to be a magnificent addition to the White House for many years to come, and it's not costing the taxpayers anything. The president is privately funding this ballroom addition to the White House grounds. Jennifer.
To follow up on that, one thing that's not in the president's...
Questions continuing of the White House press secretary at this briefing at the White House right now. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Garrett Weimer here. I want to give you a live look in Miami as we are awaiting a news conference from the state chief financial officer, Blaise Ngolia, expected to speak any minute now as he continues his tour looking at wasteful spending, excessive spending, what he believes to be that in a number of the different localities. He calls these his FAFO audits, the fool around and find out, and he basically uses projections looking at baseline budgets from pre-COVID to see with population growth and inflation where he believes the budget and spending should be compared to where it actually is. He has been doing this in a number of different places all across the state. It was recently in Seminole County where he says he found 48 million to 77 million in wasteful and excessive spending. But as we played for you yesterday, we heard some pushback to some of those figures. So there is often some pushback to these numbers that he releases, and we heard that in our area here, Seminole County, where Jay Zimbauer, the chair of the county commission, said that there were some things that he did not factor in, that they believed he was not kind of telling the full truth when it came to the spending situation in Seminole County. So these efforts are not without criticism and some pushback from those in power in a number of the different localities that he's been in. This is all part, it's a separate effort, but all part of a greater effort by the state to look at spending of these local governments, and part of the crackdown and the push to eliminate property taxes, and as part of that to reduce spending of these local governments. So we expect the CFO any minute now, hoping to bring that to you live in the next few minutes. If he does end up coming out here, we are monitoring that situation. But right now, I will get you live back to the White House, where Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is continuing to answer questions.
Pattern of these criminal illegal aliens being issued commercial vehicle licenses. And so, yes, the Department of Transportation is absolutely cracking down on that. I defer you to them for any specifics.
Venezuela, President Trump has said Maduro doesn't want to mess with the United States, and this administration is continuing to position more military assets towards Venezuela. I'm wondering if the end goal of this narco-terrorist war is to implement a regime change in Venezuela.
The president has spoken on that, Reagan, and I certainly won't get ahead of him. What we've made very clear is that this administration is not going to tolerate international narco-terrorist organizations from trafficking drugs into the United States. And these cartels over time have grown more armed, well-organized, and violent. They have financial means, sophistication, and capabilities needed to operate in the way this administration has. And they have illegally caused the deaths of tens of thousands of American citizens each year. So that's where we are right now with respect to Venezuela, but also any country that is sending purposefully illegal narco-terrorists to the United States of America to bring illegal drugs. Why don't we go in the back?
The U.S. and Colombia relationship right now is at one of its lowest points in decades. We heard what President Gustavo Petro had to say about President Trump. We heard yesterday the response from President Trump. Is there any kind of compromises or gestures from the Colombian president that President Trump would like to see in order to de-escalate the tensions? Is it possible a de-escalation?
I don't think we're seeing de-escalation from the unhinged leader of Colombia right now, and I don't think the president, frankly, is interested in that at this point. He spoke on this yesterday, and I don't have anything to add to his comments. Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.
In addition to the ballroom and the Rose Garden
I'm going
patio,
into the back. Sorry. Go ahead.
In addition to the ballroom and the Rose Garden patio, is the president looking at any other renovations or significant kind of projects here at the White House?
Not to my knowledge, no. But he's a builder at heart, clearly. And so his heart and his mind is always churning about how to improve things here on the White House grounds. But at this moment in time, of course, the ballroom is really the president's main priority. Kristen.
Last week, President Trump announced that he had a productive call with Vladimir Putin. They scheduled a meeting in Hungary. Since then, he has canceled the meeting and he has imposed sanctions on Russian oil companies. Can you talk about what changed that led to this dramatic shift, or even just what occurred in the last week that got us from point A to point B?
Sure. Look, the president has always maintained that he would implement sanctions on Russia when he felt it was appropriate and necessary. And yesterday was that day. I think the president has also long expressed his frustration with Vladimir Putin and, frankly, both sides of this war. And he's always said in order to negotiate a good peace deal, both sides need to be interested in a good peace deal. And he feels as though, unfortunately, from the Russian side as of late, he has not seen enough interest and enough action in terms of moving the ball forward towards peace. And so a meeting between these two leaders is not completely off the table. I think the president and the entire administration hopes that one day that can happen again. But we want to make sure that there's a tangible, positive outcome out of that meeting and that it's a good use of the president's time. Of course, he's traveling to Asia next week. He has a number of events coming up here on the home front as well. He's been incredibly busy, as you all know. You're all tired from covering him and his movements every day. And so we want to make sure it's a good use of the president's time. And the president doesn't want to waste his time, and he said that.
All between the Secretary of State and Lavrov that led President Trump to believe that President Putin or the Russians did not want a peace deal?
That was not the sole reason, no. I think the Secretary Rubio felt that was actually a productive call. But again, the president wants to make sure that a meeting between himself and President Putin will be a good use of his time.
What exactly led to President Trump not believing, after his call on Thursday, where he said he did think he wanted peace and wanted a peace deal, to believing that Russians were not?
Again, the president wants to see action, not just talk. And I think the president is extremely motivated by the success of his peace deal in the Middle East to get things done. And he wants this war to come to an end. He's been saying it now for 9 months being in office, and he's grown increasingly frustrated with the lack of progress from both sides of this war. Mary.
For example, two quick construction questions, if I can. You mentioned any construction project comes with changes. The president had initially said that this project wouldn't interfere with or touch the current structure. Now he says to do this properly, he realized that the East Wing had to be demolished. This is the people's house. Why not inform the public of that change and when it was decided that the East Wing would have to be demolished?
Look, again, with any construction project, changes come, and we have informed all of you. We've been keeping you apprised of this project. We've shown you the renderings. And if you look at the renderings, it's very clear the East Wing was going to be modernized. Instead, in fact, I said that in the briefing when we initially introduced this plan to all of you and to the public.
But the East and tearing down are two different things.
Well, again, the plans changed when the president heard counsel from the architects and the construction companies who said that in order for this East Wing to be modern and beautiful for many, many years to come, for it to be a truly strong and stable structure, this phase one that we're now in was necessary. And the president wants to do right by the people's house. And so that's exactly what he's doing. It's going to be, again, like I said, much more stable, strong, secure, and more beautiful than ever once it's complete.
And the First Lady's offices, where will those be? The First Lady's offices, the Social Secretary's office, and the East, they will be back where they were.
Yes. Perfect.
Thank you. Cattle ranchers who supported the president's election have raised some concerns about plans to import beef from Argentina. How will the Trump administration support those farmers?
Look, the president hears those concerns. He addressed them yesterday himself. President loves our ranchers, and our ranchers love our president. And in fact, the president did a lot for them in his first term here. They are struggling because of the many horrible policies of the previous administration. The president loves our ranchers, and he also loves American consumers, and he wants to do right by both. So the immediate solution to the problem of the rising cost of beef, the president wants to bring that down, as we have to increase our supply. And so that's what he's doing with respect to these imports. But the president also is looking out for our ranchers with a long-term plan that was released by the Secretary of Agriculture yesterday. It's a 3-part plan. It's very extensive and detailed. I would encourage all of you to read through it. But there's really 3 points to this plan that the president has agreed upon and has entrusted Secretary Rollins to implement. Number 1, strengthening U.S. cattle production through increased grazing access, endangered species reforms, enhanced disaster relief, increased access to capital, and reducing costs for new and young ranchers. We want to incentivize more Americans to get into this noble profession. Lowering long-term costs by cutting inspection costs, increasing market options for consumers with product of USA labeling, and ensuring consumers know that they are eating American beef. It's a good incentive for the American consumer. And lastly, growing the domestic herd while boosting long-term demand to reduce prices for consumers while growing the markets for our ranchers. So President hears them. He has to address both of these problems for the ranchers, but also for the American consumer. He promised to lower costs, and that's what he's committed to doing.
Caroline, thank you. 2 questions not on the ballroom. The first is, there's a Democrat in Texas who's actually running.
News conference continuing at the White House. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt answering questions. You see there CFO Ngolia expected in Miami, and Terry Rozier expected in federal court at 2:30. These are all stories we're going to be following up on, so keep it right here on Fox Local. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back at the top of the hour. Welcome in our TV audience on Florida Live, and we're going to be talking a lot about this sports betting probe, so you won't want to miss it. Keep it right here on Fox.
Florida Live starts now.
And the fraud is mind-boggling. It's not hundreds of dollars. It's not thousands of dollars. It's not tens of thousands of dollars. It's not even millions of dollars. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery across a multi-year investigation.
As the NBA season tips off, his career is already benched, not for injury, but for integrity.
That's officials talking about Terry Rozier, a Miami Heat guard who sat the bench last night against the Orlando Magic in the season opener at Kia Center, and now will be sitting in a chair at the defendants table inside the federal courthouse in downtown Orlando, just down the street from the Kia Center. And here's a live look at that federal courthouse where Terry Rozier is expected in about half an hour to make his initial appearance. All of this in connection with an alleged illegal sports betting scheme that we have learned a lot of new details about today. Welcome in to Florida Live. If you're just joining us here on Fox 35 TV, or if you've been joining us throughout the afternoon on Fox Local, I'm Garrett Weimer, and we appreciate you joining us. Fox 35's Matt Trezza is outside the courthouse getting ready to go in for that court hearing. He gets us up to speed on what we need to know about this case and where things stand right now.
3 people connected with the NBA were among more than 24 arrested as part of a widespread FBI investigation. One of them is expected here in Orlando federal court this afternoon. FBI agents arrested Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups, Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, and former NBA guard and coach Damon Jones. Rozier is set to face a judge here in Orlando after his lawyers say agents arrested him at a hotel this morning. They're all facing charges of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering for their alleged roles in an illegal gambling scheme. The NBA said in a statement, quote, "We're in the process of reviewing the federal indictments announced today. Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups are being placed on immediate leave from their teams, and we will continue to cooperate with the relevant authorities. We take these allegations with the utmost seriousness, and the integrity of our game remains our top priority." We also have a statement from the Players Association which reads, quote, "The integrity of the game is paramount to NBA players, but so is the presumption of innocence, and both are hindered when player popularity is misused to gain attention. We will ensure our members are protected and afforded their due process rights through this process." The FBI says money in this case eventually made its way to members of the mafia. We'll be in federal court for today's hearing and bring you more later. In downtown Orlando, Matt Trezza, Fox 35 News.
Obviously a big story that we are tracking, and also finding some more connections here in the Orlando area beyond just Rozier being arrested in Orlando early this morning. I'm going to bring in Fox 35 sports reporter Jonah Karp, who joins me live in the streaming studio. And Jonah, this is, first of all, just kind of a bombshell announcement here on the week that we tip off the NBA season.
Yeah.
And this is huge because we're not just talking Terry Rozier, but a Hall of Famer as well, who is also arrested and facing charges in this.
And this thing just keeps on growing, and I have the indictments that I've been reading for about an hour now. This is a fascinating story, isn't it, Garrett? I mean, I know you've been talking about it for a while, but this is fascinating, and with every new detail that comes out, it's intriguing for a number of reasons. The thing that struck me is that the NBA conducted their own investigation several years ago when this game that happened in March of 2023, when Terry Rozier took himself out of the game with a foot injury, didn't play the rest of the season. This game that had $200,000 allegedly placed in wagers. Do we need to fix something?
Yeah, grab that mic.
Oh, the microphone. That had $200,000 on it. And because several people were supposedly tipped off, bet on the under for Terry Rozier, who was averaging about 21 points per game that year, played only 10 minutes, and they cashed in on the under. The NBA looked into that and determined nothing was wrong. So the question that raises for me is, how thorough was the investigation? And what did the NBA know, and what is the NBA finding out now that these federal indictments are coming out.
Yeah, it's interesting. We heard from investigators today saying the NBA is cooperating with their investigation. Going to be interesting to see where things go. I do want to pull something up from the indictment here, and it talks about a connection to Orlando. This happened on April 6, 2023. So just big picture here. One of the other defendants is Marv's Fairley, who, if you look him up on social media, bills himself as the #1 sports betting consultant. And he was one of the men facing charges in connection with this. And we were digging through this indictment earlier on Fox 35 News Plus, and I kind of found this this connection. One of the incidents, one of the examples that investigators gave as far as of incidents where they this ring allegedly used some of the non-public information to cash in on these sports betting apps was an Orlando Magic game, and it was April 6, 2023. And they say the defendant, Marv's Fairley, who is facing charges, and co-conspirator 1, who is unnamed in this indictment but is listed as someone who lives in Florida. It says he leveraged a personal relationship with one of the Magic's regularly starting players, also unnamed, but whose identity is apparently known to the grand jury, to obtain non-public information about that game. So this says, if you look here, right where it says 51, hours before the April 6th game, player 2 told co-conspirator 1, before the news was publicly announced, that the Magic would not be playing its entire regular starting lineup, i.e. the team's best players, in the April 6th game. And after receiving that information, the unnamed co-conspirator gave that information to the defendant. Investigators alleged that they were able to place money on that because the Magic were favored to win the game at that point by 9 points. And then after that, placed an $11,000 bet with an unlicensed bookmaker, basically for the Cavs to cover the spread. It was 9.5 points. Magic didn't play their lineup. The betting lines changed upon the public release of that information, as you would expect. Cavs ended up beating the Magic by 24 points in that game. And so that $11,000 bet, very successful for that defendant who is now facing charges here. So it's kind of, we hear the top line information and allegations, but then when you see these specific examples, because that's not the only one, other examples throughout this indictment, but it's kind of eye-opening to see.
It is eye-opening. The thing about today's day and age and how intertwined sports betting is with the consumption of sports, this isn't necessarily surprising because of how accessible sports betting is, how digestible it is, and how easily people can do it. And that's no indictment in character for anybody who's involved in this, but it's so prevalent in today's day and age, it's so intertwined, and it's so endorsed, legal sports betting, by several leagues, by networks, and the fact that this is all coming out, it's eye-opening and it's fascinating. And the thing is, too, Garrett, there is an outline that the NBA operations manual has for gambling. Players and league employees, with the exception of referees, they can engage in casino gambling and they can engage in non-NBA league sports gambling where it's legal, in the states where it's legal. That is outlined in the NBA operations manual. Obviously, this is illegal, but there are outlines for it.
Yeah, and the thing with a situation like this, investigators essentially saying, and obviously these are allegations. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. But the allegations from investigators say this is tantamount to essentially insider trading at the sports level. Yeah. With insider trading, it's businesses and that kind of thing, and using that non-public information to profit, and they said essentially that's what happened here, and we just gave a couple examples of that. But you mentioned kind of the strange, it's one of those strange bedfellows situations, the marriage between these sports leagues that try to uphold the integrity of their sport, while also having this close marriage with these sports betting companies. It's going to be interesting to see if, as we see some more things like this, kind of what happens with that, if anything.
Right. And obviously this is, when you have players tipping people off for the purposes of gaining profit, like Terry Rozier allegedly did, that is an issue that, if it's larger than Terry Rozier, is a big problem. The Chauncey Billups allegations, that involves a poker game connected to the mafia. That's separate from this. And just want to make that clear. But if the Terry Rozier thing is larger than just Rozier, and you have all of these allegations coming out, and the Orlando Magic game is an indication of that, this is something that's pretty big.
Yeah, and if you're the NBA, you don't love having that when all the talk is supposed to be the exciting start to this new season, which did start with a Magic win, at least last night over the Miami Heat.
It did. It was a great game, too.
Got that.
And you mentioned, though, Rozier did not play. That was coach's decision.
Correct.
On paper.
Yes. So, Jonah, we appreciate you stopping by, breaking all that down for us here. We're continuing to track this. Obviously going to have more coming up later on Fox 35 News. We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, give you this live look at the courthouse where Terry Rozier is expected to appear in the next half hour. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon, live on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35. We are approaching 20 years since the disappearance of Jennifer Kesse, who was last seen in her apartment on January 24th, 2006. The case went cold. Her father, for years, sued Orlando and police and fought for some of the documents related to the case surrounding her disappearance. A team of retired law enforcement looked over it. FDLE ended up taking over the case, and now a couple of years after that, investigators believe they're making progress. In fact, Drew Kesse, Jennifer's father, told me earlier today that he believes they are closer now to Jennifer than they ever were when it comes to answers and figuring out what exactly happened here. FDLE says that case is no longer cold. They are actively getting and pursuing leads. At the same time, Drew Kessy says they're also having to deal with rumors that swirl around social media and spread some misinformation as well. So I had the chance to talk with him today about the status of this case, what they want people to know, and also what they are seeing when it comes to some of these rumors on social media.
Well, first of all, yesterday we got a lead that came across, I think it was Instagram, that was just totally absurd. They kind of set the internet off. Someone had written that DNA testing had been performed and it came back to a construction worker that was in South America or something like that, and FBI was extraditing that person. It's totally false. Unfortunately, people do a lot of really bad things on the web, and it's been done to us for 20 years almost. But what I was writing basically was I had noticed that I had not updated Jennifer's social media since her birthday in May, and I do like to keep folks up to date. In July, we had the opportunity to sit with the FDLE team, and they gave us an update on Jennifer's case, and that's out there. I have to be honest with you. I've done interviews and I've written about it before, except actually putting it out on her social media. And basically, what I stated was that FDLE is going fast and furious. Everything is being put on Jennifer as far as resources are concerned. They do not consider her case cold anymore. They have so much work to do, and they are working diligently towards a finality. They have basically knocked a lot of people of interest out and are only down to a few, which we think is exciting. And it's moving along. It's never been at this pace before for our family and for Jennifer. And you can see the excitement in the investigators' voices and faces. And we're excited that, we're not at Jennifer yet, but we're excited we're finally going in the right directions, that people are being knocked out. People still need to be talked to. Things are becoming clearer, so to say. So I wanted to bring everybody up to date on that, since Jennifer's social media wasn't up to date, but that seemed to cause a little bit of an uptick, so to say.
And you talk about the social media kind of rumors that go around too. I would imagine that is one of the kind of tensions in social media, because it can be so helpful in getting out the message, but then you see some of those other things go around that are difficult, I'm sure, to kind of hear and deal with.
Well, yeah, Joyce and I are kind of at the point, when that came across, I cared for about 30 seconds. And as soon as I got with my people, and it was just bullshit, we just kind of went on with life. It's something that occurs on a very regular basis with us. I don't think people understand that to this day, 19 and a half years later, we get leads every week. We get things happen to us directly every single week. Still, it's never stopped. And we've become a little bit numb to it, but it hurts inside. There's a subliminal anxiety that will go on, but we've kind of, through psychologists and everything else, kind of learned how to deal with that on a daily basis.
The case no longer cold, as we talked about. You talk about the efforts that are ongoing with this. It sounds like investigators keep you pretty up to date on how things are going with this case.
Yeah, I do. We had an opportunity in the end of July to actually sit down with our lead investigators on the case for almost a whole day. And we basically went through everything, where they are, what they need to do, and things such as that. And again, we're not close to Jennifer, but we sure are going in the proper direction. There has been nothing that FDLE has asked for that they have not received. Everyone's in on it. This is Jennifer's chance right now, and it's her best chance. And over the 19 years, we've not had this type investigation, and we're very thankful. Even though it took 19, they started 2 years ago, basically. But it's going the proper way. And we truly believe that, I don't know, maybe a year or 2 years, we'll actually find out what happened to Jennifer. I don't think there's a realm of possibility that we walk away the rest of our lives right now not knowing what happened to Jennifer.
What do you think has made the difference in kind of getting to this point where you say you've never been this close?
Right. We have screamed for years that Jennifer's case only needs to be worked. And as we found out when we won the files from Orlando Police Department, Jennifer's case was not worked on for 7 years. Not a single thing was written for 7 years until FDLE took it over. And that has been extremely prohibitive. It wasn't done correctly from the start. We all know that. We all have to live with that. We all accept that, and we all move on with our lives with that. But then you have this big gap of, we had leads coming in for 7 years that were never worked. And we were told that they were worked. And now we have people who are willing to do the hard job 17 and a half years later when they started to put it all together. And they are putting it all together because, as we said, it just needed to be worked. The answers are there. And they believe the answers are there also. So things are moving forward in a positive way. And basically, we hope that it ends with at least finding out what happened to Jennifer. That's all we expect out of this. Just Jennifer. That's all I'm looking for. And we know it's not going to be good in the end, but we need to have our daughter.
And after all these years, what would that mean to have those answers finally?
Well, I've said it before, I'm just a believer that I don't think anyone missing should go unfound. And to have a family, to have a daughter taken, physically taken, and not know anything for 20 years and maybe forever, that's hard to cope with. So as long as we can do the due diligence, and we may end up at the end here that FDLE does everything in their power, and they've done every lead, and we still don't have answers. But at that point, we know that the work had been done, because to this point, the work has not been done. It's being done now. So that's our hope. And we know it's fruitful. They're telling us that it's fruitful just by doing the work. So we do have great hopes, and they have great hopes of truly finding out where Jennifer is. And all we need is just a piece of Jennifer. We just need to know where Jennifer is and bring her home where she belongs, and that's it.
And you're continuing to keep, her story out there as well. And I know also another documentary project underway. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was really crazy. After May, after Jennifer's birthday, I don't know what happened, but the world of media came out. We did interviews all over the world. I did for 3 days. All I did was sit here and do interviews, and nothing was special. We don't reach out to media anymore. And it just happened. And we had 3 production groups come forward asking to do a documentary. So then I had, my work to do to see who would best fit with us. And we picked a production group that is in work right now. And we hope to have that out in a meaningful way for a television audience, hopefully for January. It's moving along quite well right now, and we'll see how it all ends up. But we do have a documentary that we are working on to bring to the masses to let people know exactly what has happened over the 20 years Jennifer was taken.
Why is that important to you to have that story out there and for people to learn more about who Jennifer was?
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. It's a tough thing to do. Just like yourself this morning, I've had a lot of people reach out to me today. Please do an interview. I don't want to do interviews. I have to be honest with you. I think I said no right up front. And I've said no to everyone right up front. And fortunately, I guess, you people keep coming back to us. And all of you have been so good to this family and to Jennifer over 20 years that I'm going to sit here and tell you what I know. I don't hold back anything. Everything I tell you is the truth of what's going on and up to date. So it's more or less that, thank goodness, the people out there want to know what's going on, and we're willing to still share it with them.
Okay, well, what's the bottom line here, Drew? What do you want people to know? What's the takeaway here?
I want people to know that Jennifer is still missing, that we are moving in a very fruitful direction. And please, if you do know something, please get with FDLE, get on our social media sites. We'll get it right to them. Jennifer, as well as everyone missing, deserves to be found. We're all human beings. We don't deserve to be taken. We don't deserve to be killed. And it's just, I think it's human nature. That it's against human nature what happened to Jennifer. And we just simply want her back in any shape, manner, or form that we can have her so we can take care of her properly as her family.
We'll be right back with more Florida Live after this. Live look at Orlando on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us live on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35 TV. It's time now for our Tampa Connection, where we check in on some of the big stories in the Bay Area this afternoon. Joining us live now is Fox 13 senior content producer Nancy Gay. And Nancy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Garrett. Well, we have new information about documents in the Sabrina Eisenberg case. Now, she was the baby who disappeared from her crib in Valrico back in 1997 and has never been found. Now, a Tampa attorney will be able to look over case files from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. Yesterday, a judge ordered that attorney Mike Trentalage will be able to look over the case files on October 28th and October 29th for 8 hours a day. That same judge found the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office in contempt for a slow handover of those files. Now, that attorney said he's been trying to look at the documents since 2019 and claimed that that's when he made a public record request. However, he was told that it was an ongoing investigation. He made another public records request in 2021, and he was told the same thing. Now, the Sheriff's Office had a deadline from the court to allow Trentillage to look at the documents on October 9th, but the judge said there were delays. Now, Trentillage said with the case this old, the public records could help with new leads. He said he was friends with Barry Cohen. He's the prominent attorney who represented the Eisenbergs, and Cohen died back in 2018. Sabrina Eisenberg will be 28 years old today. Her family, who moved to Maryland, still holds on to hope that she is still alive. They have their DNA on several genealogy websites in hopes of finding her. Anybody who has any information on the disappearance of Sabrina Eisenberg is asked to call the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. Garrett?
All right, Nancy, interesting developments there. Now, talk to us about what we know about this man arrested in connection with a potential road rage shooting.
Yes, this actually happened down the street from our station yesterday morning. So police said that they received several 911 calls around 8 o'clock in the morning regarding somebody who was later identified as Kevin Areola driving erratically and crashing into several vehicles. This actually happened on the exit ramp from the Selman Expressway right near downtown Tampa. So after he crashed into these cars, police say Areola then got out of his vehicle armed with a gun and fired several shots into another car. Now, fortunately, no serious injuries were reported as a result of the shooting or the crashes. And deputies with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, they found Areola near the scene and detained him. That's when Tampa police took custody of him. He has been charged with first-degree attempted murder, aggravated battery with a firearm, possession of a firearm in commission of a felony, as well as shooting at or into a vehicle. Now, initially, the Tampa Police Department said they were investigating this as a road rage incident. That's what we were reporting all morning yesterday. However, yesterday afternoon, the police came back and told us they no longer believe this is a case of road rage. They simply say for whatever reason, Kevin Areola decided to crash into these cars and then get out and fire shots into that one vehicle. But they say as of right now, they are not saying this is a road rage incident anymore. Garrett?
Interesting situation there, something to keep an eye on. And finally, Nancy, a heartbreaking vigil last night.
Yes, family and friends of 7-year-old Jaleesa Capers got together last night to honor the little girl. She was hit and killed by a car last weekend. Now, Capers, her cousin, as well as 2 other children wanted to grab a drink from the store around 8 o'clock last Sunday night, but they never made it. Now, troopers said the kids were running across the street when 3 of them were hit by a truck. Now, Jaleesa, she was taken to a hospital and was later pronounced dead. The other 2 children who were hit by that truck have been released from the hospital, and they are expected to recover. Last night, Jaleesa's loved ones held a vigil at Al Barnes Park, and they released balloons in her honor. Her classmates and teachers also wore bold colors to school. That was Idea Victory Academy on Wednesday. They did this so that they could be united in their loss and also honor that 7-year-old girl. Jaleesa, she was in the 2nd grade at that school. Now, the Florida Highway Patrol, they said they interviewed the driver of that truck, and they are calling this crash a horrible accident. Garrett?
Gosh, it's heartbreaking to see those pictures of her and know what her family and her friends are going through. It's so sad. Fox 13 senior content producer Nancy Gay, we appreciate you joining us for our Tampa Connection.
Thank you.
I want to give you a live look right now at Daytona Beach from our Hard Rock hotel camera, and our Atlantic beaches could be feeling some more impacts from Tropical Storm Melissa in the coming days. I want to bring in Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Laurel Blanchard, who joins us live now in our streaming studio. And Laurel, I know this storm kind of coming into focus a little bit more, at least.
Yes. The track we had a lot of questions about yesterday. Now we're slowly starting to see that almost get a little bit more agreed upon with the models, but still there's a good amount of questions still out there.
And still looking like a monster.
Oh, it's going to be a monster storm for sure. So here's the latest. Tropical Storm Melissa, this is the 2 p.m. update from the National Hurricane Center. 45-mile-per-hour winds. This time yesterday is about 50-mile-per-hour winds, but also what we were seeing yesterday is quite literally a tropical storm cut in half. It was totally sheared apart on the left-hand side. And now we're starting to kind of see that circulation starting to pick up in the center of the storm. So something that we're going to be watching very closely as we take a look over the next couple of days, because this intensification that's going to happen really going to sway where this system is going to go. So here's the latest track. This is where we're seeing the center on the far left side of the storm. And as we take a look at the cone, right now 45-mile-per-hour winds, and how the storm kind of evolves is going to be very quick. So we're looking at a Category 1 storm by Sunday, and most likely a Category 4 storm by Tuesday. This is going to be a very quick intensifying storm, and as of right now, Jamaica is in the cone of uncertainty, and we can also see portions of southern Haiti just outside the cone, still under hurricane watches, and also going to be seeing a good amount of storm surge. So as we do take a look at the current warnings, we can see Jamaica is under a hurricane watch, as well as areas across southern Haiti, and then you can kind of see that outline of blue. Those are going to be the potential for storm surge areas. So if you know anybody that's on a cruise, maybe possibly stopping into Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, it's probably going to be very windy. The seas are going to be very choppy, as well as it's going to be very rainy, taking a look through the weekend. So that's really the timeline of what we can see with that right now. Spaghetti models, here's the latest. Some of them starting to bring it towards Jamaica and then kind of up through the Caribbean islands. That's the main consensus through the models, but we're starting to see a little bit of a shift that because we're going to see that intensification so strong and so quick, we could almost see this system almost do like a little bit of a loop because it's just going to pick up that power and circulation so quickly. It could do a little bit of a loop as it stalls just south of Jamaica before it kind of gets brought up. So that's what we're going to be continuing to watch very closely over the next couple of days, especially as we're talking about the path, because that is still one of the questions that we kind of have up in the air. But really the intensification of that storm pretty much locked down. This is going to be a monster of a storm for sure. That intensification is going to be so quick. It's in an area of low wind shear, very, very warm ocean water. So all the ingredients are there for this storm to literally take off by the time we hit the end of the work week and start of the weekend. So here's the spaghetti models. This is every single model imaginable that you can think, from GFS, Euro, AIs. This is where we can see right here. Most of the models do bring it west, up through Jamaica, through Cuba, somewhere along the Dominican Republic, Haiti area, and then kind of bring it up into the Atlantic. Luckily, though, not one of those models bring it into Florida. So good news right there. However, even though it's may or may not bring it a little bit of a closer pass, we are still going to be seeing the possibility of some very rough beaches, as well as the breeze along the beaches, maybe a little on the rougher side as well. So something that we're going to be watching.
So still feeling, again, those indirect impacts in our area.
Yes, absolutely, and something that we're going to be watching, because this is going to be a possible potential for lining up with supermoon king tides. It's going to be kind of another recipe for disaster, especially along the coast, because right now we're kind of looking at end of October, supermoon's beginning of November, so it's going to be probably another 2 weeks of very, very rough surf and tides as we're continuing to track Melissa.
All right, Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Laurel Blanchard, we appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, Carrie.
As we go to break here on Florida Live, going to leave you with this view of Daytona Beach from our Hard Rock Hotel camera. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon, live on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35 TV. A rising indie pop artist with Florida roots is making a name for herself and going viral with her music. Yesterday, I had the chance to sit down with Nep. Nep, your song and music video, Florida Girl, is getting a ton of attention on social media and everything. I'm just curious, why do you think it's getting such a reception like that?
I feel like, I mean, everybody from Florida knows like the stereotype of the Florida man. And I was kind of thinking, and I was like, oh man, I feel like I can be a little crazy sometimes. Like, what about a Florida girl? Like, we're here. So I feel like everybody kind of wants to maybe resonate with that like crazy part of themselves. And yeah, I don't know. It felt really good to just see a bunch of people be like, yeah, I'm crazy too. I felt really accepted by that.
So you grew up in Volusia County. So
yes.
What does it mean to you to be a Florida girl?
It means that, hey, I'm not perfect. There are parts of me that are a little different from people from places where you're not supposed to be as loud. I realized when I went to college in Miami, like, oh, I am a little loud. I am a little dramatic. I am a little, crazy. I'm more willing to do stuff that other people can't. I've held gators. I've driven trucks. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it means embracing all of the like dirty, crazy parts of yourself.
And you write a lot about that. A lot of your songs kind of embrace that identity and kind of call to mind some of those experiences. Why is that? Why is that important to you?
I feel like, I love Florida. I didn't really fit in growing up, and I feel like it just kind of helps me to understand like myself as a whole. Like, even if I didn't fit in there, and even if I did really, I was an angsty teen and I hated it there, like those parts of me are important. And as I'm getting older, like, and I live in a different place now, people think it's cool where I'm from, and people think it's cool that I am the person that I am. And I really like thinking about it like that because it makes me appreciate like everything that I've ever had in life.
Yeah, your songs reference growing up and your experiences. I've got to ask you about the line in Biketoberfest where you say Daytona sucks.
Yes. I have a love-hate relationship with where I'm from. I think it kind of changed a lot as I was getting older. And honestly, I was just a very sad teenager that didn't want to be there. And when any of the bike rallies would happen and I would be driving to campus, I went to DSC for a bit, like when I would be driving to campus and everybody would just be, I felt like everybody was staring at me and everybody was looking at me. And I just really felt like I didn't belong there. And now when I was taking my friends home from college and stuff, I would be like, and look here's the really cool beach and here's this little gift shop. And I would be so proud of where I was from. But it's kind of like these two versions of myself, like fighting with each other, like, wow, it's so cool that I'm from here, and also like, oh my gosh, like the 17-year-old in me hates it there.
Well, and your music kind of explores that, doesn't it? That push and pull there?
I think so, yeah. It's definitely something that my life explores, I feel like. Like going to Miami was a totally different part of Florida, and it just, I don't know. Every part of Florida is like a different state in and of itself, I feel like. So I've learned so much from just traveling.
Yeah, talk about your time in Miami. You studied at the University of Miami's Frost School of Music, and I'm just curious for someone with your talents, what that experience was like, and how things kind of may have evolved with that experience.
Totally, yeah, I really liked it there. I was studying sound engineering, and it was this cool program where we got to do engineering, but also go sing like Ariana Grande in our classes and stuff. It really pulled me out of my comfort zone. I think that's what a lot of my music now is touching on, is like I didn't realize what my actual personality was. Like I feel like it was deep inside of me because I didn't really have friends in Daytona. Like I didn't really connect with anybody super well. And then I went to this music school full of people that were exactly like me, just as dramatic as me. I just felt like it really opened me up into this whole other world of songwriting and art, and even just in my personal life. Like I feel like I really learned who I was at college. I guess everybody does, but I really liked it.
What's your songwriting process like? I'm curious.
I don't really have one. I like this question because I feel like I do it different every time. Sometimes I'll start with a word or a picture, or sometimes I'll start with a guitar, or sometimes I'll not write for 3 months, and then all of a sudden I'll be sitting in my bed sleeping and just be like, oh, I have an idea. And then it just kind of like comes out of me. I'm not a very like consistent songwriter. I don't force myself to write anything. So it was really cool to write an album this way because I feel like every song on it just kind of flowed like right after the next. It worked really well.
How is it different or similar to Nep's Storybook, your EP?
I would say it's pretty different in the sense that Storybook is just folk. So, I mean, I love folk and I love writing folk music. It's very much so like cuter. Like if it is sad, it's kind of a cute kind of sad. I feel like with Noel, this album, I really was exploring kind of the emo, darker side of myself. Even though some of the songs are still happy, I was trying to be more melodic in my words and really just like evolve my songwriting and challenge myself. Like I love folk music and I honestly gravitate towards folk music. It's what I naturally write. But it was so fun to see, like, can I do this? Like, can I write an album like this? Can I write something like all of these people that I listen to? Like, I don't know. It was just so awesome to get to write like kind of like alti rock music for the first time in my life.
And we've heard some of the singles. We talked about the music videos as well. Did you expect this reception and the response that you've gotten?
I don't think so, honestly. I was surprised to see people still kind of into it, and I feel like I do get those comments that are like, oh, why are you making music that sounds different from the last stuff? But then there's people like replying back to them like, oh, well, she's just trying new stuff out. So I appreciate that people understand it. And I feel like in my life, I want to write every kind of music possible. I don't know. I would love to try to see everything that I could do. And I'm grateful for anybody that stays along for the journey.
You're out in LA now. But can we expect to hear more of your, kind of Florida experiences and style to come out?
I think so. Yeah. The cool thing about LA is there's a lot of people here that aren't from here. So everybody's kind of just bouncing off of each other. And I don't know. I feel like I actually have come into like loving where I'm from. And I feel proud when someone's like, oh, you're from Florida. That's so cool. I'm like, thank you. It is very cool. So yeah, I think I'll definitely keep writing about that. And I mean, my family's still there. Hi, mom, hi, dad. So I'm definitely, I'm always going to be visiting and coming back to Florida.
Nep, you talk about how growing up was challenging for you in a lot of ways. And I'm just curious what you might say to, other young girls here in Florida who may be kind of going through the same thing and hear some of themselves in your music. And what would you say to them?
I would just say, I mean, it's the worst thing to hear when you're an angsty teenager, but like it actually does get better. It actually does. Like, I just really I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I would ever go to. I never would have thought I would even go out of Central Florida for college, let alone South Florida, or you can go out of state for college. Like, you can literally do whatever you want with your life. There is so much outside of Florida. There's so much in Florida. Like, I know it's discouraging, but you got this. You totally got this. You can do whatever you want.
And what's next for you, Nep?
Well, my album comes out and we're playing some release shows in LA, Boston, and New York, and then more shows to come. And I don't know, I guess I'll just keep writing and playing and see where it takes me.
Talented for sure. Her new album, Noel, comes out Friday. We're going to take a break here on Florida Live. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Florida Live. Garrett Weimer here, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon, live on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35 TV. Let's talk a little theme parks here. Got some news to talk about. Some new tickets now available for Epic Universe in 2026. And joining us live now to talk about this and some other things as well, Theron White, lead publisher of EYNTK.info. Theron, always good talking with you. We appreciate you joining us today.
Always happy to join.
All right, so tell us what we know about these multi-day tickets for Epic Universe in 2026.
Yeah, Universal has finally released some standard ticket options for Universal Epic Universe. We were getting really close to 2026, and I kept getting the same question every single day. When are we getting these tickets? So now you can buy single-day tickets, multi-park tickets, multi-day tickets, Florida resident options. There's all kind of options, and these are now going to allow you to jump park to park. So you could start your day at Universal Studios Florida and go over to Diagon Alley. You could take the train over to Universal Islands of Adventure and enjoy Hogsmeade, and then you can get in a bus or a car and head over to Epic Universe and go inside of the Ministry of Magic Land and experience all 3 Harry Potter storylines in one singular day. Obviously, you don't have to just go to that land. You can go to all the parks in whatever way you'd like, but that is now finally an option where you're going to be able to jump back and forth between these parks for a 3-day ticket, a 4-day ticket, or a 5-day ticket.
At the same time, we know there are a lot of rumors and questions about when Epic Universe access will be available as part of an annual pass, and you think some of what we're seeing now may kind of squash some of those rumors for now. Why is that?
So when they announced the single-day tickets today, they also switched up for the annual pass holder discount. For this entire year, if you have an annual pass, you couldn't add on Epic Universe to your pass, but you could buy discounted tickets. The assumption was, well, maybe in 2026, you'll be able to add on to your annual pass, or they'll offer a new option that includes Epic Universe. But when we look at 2026, for all of the days, they offer an annual pass holder discount just like they have now. Because they're going so forward to even say, hey, December 30th of 2026, you can still buy discounted tickets, it doesn't make us believe that maybe they're going to be rushing out with that annual pass holder option as soon as we initially expected. It still could happen, and maybe they're like, hey, this is for someone that just wants to go once. It's still a discount for being a pass holder. But the fact that those came out the exact same day as all the other tickets and all these packages, and they have Florida resident packages, it doesn't lean towards us getting the AP maybe as fast as we had expected.
Now let's also talk about Universal making some other changes as well, updating the Wicked experience just in time for the new movie.
Yes, Wicked for Good is coming out, and if you visit Universal Studios Florida, they have Wicked the Experience. So it's a merchandise area that you can go and explore. They have props from the film, and some characters show up throughout the day. It's now being updated for the new Wicked for Good film. They're going to be officially reopening it on the 31st, but it's already, you can still walk through it as of today. And when I went a couple of days ago, they even had some of the movie props already in there. So while it officially is going to be changing on October 31st, if you go early, you can still enjoy some of the snacks that you see there on screen. You can still go and see some of those film props and some of the new merchandise. But as of October 31st, it will officially be switched over for the second film, Wicked for Good.
And I was trying to look at the date here. We're about a week out from Halloween, but for all the horror fans out there, if you're a fan of Screamageddon Horror Park, it's going to be staying open a little bit longer.
That is correct. I feel like normally here in Orlando, once we get within 2 weeks of Halloween, Halloween is over. It's time for Christmas.
Right.
But if you're someone that wants to keep Halloween around for a little bit, Screamageddon over in Dade City, they're going to be extending until November 8th. So you can still, a little bit into November, get some of those scary houses, go and shoot some zombies. I took some friends for the first time this year. It's their first time this year, both to Halloween Horror Nights and to Screamageddon. And I will say, of the 3 friends I took, 2 of the 3 said they preferred Screamageddon even over Horror Nights. They love the experience. They love that it was interactive. They've still got a bunch of houses. And of course, the zombie experience is so much fun. So if this is something that sounds like up your alley, it is very intense. It's very scary. But if that's what you want, you do have a little bit more time now up through November 8th.
All right, and as we do get ready to kind of shift gears for the holiday season, we know some of the holiday foods are going to be starting to show up.
Yes, we're going to have, as we were just saying, I mean, it's basically Christmas now. So now we're like, what's the
Right.
Christmas food? What are the Christmas options? We're going to have all the decorations are going to be showing up within days of Halloween being over. But there are options that are going to be coming to all of the parks. So just as a kind of a date update for everyone that's watching, November 21st is when Universal officially switches over for Christmas. SeaWorld's brand new Illuminates Lantern Festival is going to start November 8th. And Disney's Festival of the Holidays over at Epcot begins November 28th. But if you want some holiday-inspired food, there are some things that are going to be on their way. So if you go over to Chef Art Smith's Homecoming at Disney Springs, they're going to be doing a Thanksgiving Day special. And the next day, they're actually selling a Thanksgiving sandwich, like a leftover sandwich. And it really is some of the leftovers from the day before. You can only get it the day after Thanksgiving. And supposedly, it's very, very popular. When I spoke to them, they were like, it sells out incredibly fast.
I love that idea. As someone who loves Thanksgiving leftovers, I love that idea. I think that's really cool. Well, Theron White, lead publisher of EYNTK.info, we appreciate you joining us and breaking all that down for us, even if we are going to have to wait a little bit longer for that Epic Universe pass.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great talking to you.
All right. Always good having Theron on. We appreciate you joining us this afternoon here on Florida Live. We've been live streaming all day, had a lot of coverage of that sports betting probe and unfolding scandal, potentially. Fox 35's Matt Trezza in the federal courthouse, in that courtroom right now for the first appearance of Terry Rozier. We'll have updates for you coming up later on Fox 35 News. And then as we wrap up here on Florida Live, let me give you a live look at that courthouse right now. We will have more coverage coming up in a little bit. I'm heading out, though, so thanks for joining us, and I'll see you again tomorrow morning on Fox Local.
All right, everybody, welcome into our Fox 35 Weather Plus. We are going to be talking about Melissa. We're going to be talking about our next cold front that's going to be moving through. But of course, we are going to start today with our question of the day, as well as a photo challenge that we are running for the start of October. I'm really excited for our question of the day. I asked a couple people in the newsroom about this question because when I woke up this morning, I met my sister for breakfast. She goes up to UNF in Jacksonville, and she's up there for grad school. And we met for breakfast this morning. And I have to admit, this morning, it was a little chilly, and I was in jeans and a t-shirt, and I needed to throw on a windbreaker because it was just starting to get a little bit early, that morning light. So question of the day, very fittingly, is going to be, what temperature do you start to feel a little on the chilly side? So here is the question of the day today. We'll pop up our 2 box so I can talk to you, as well as you can take a look at the question of the day today. But I'm really excited. I want to know everyone's opinion on this one. So here's what we're looking at. Question of the day today: at what temperature do you start to feel a little on the chilly side? So that is what we're talking about today. Write your comments in the comment section. Write your answer into the comment section, and we will show them on stream a little bit later on in the show. So that's what our question of the day is today. At what temperature do you think it might be a little bit time to now throw on a sweatshirt? Give me a temperature range, whether you think it's like low 60s specifically, anywhere within the 60s. I asked a couple of people here at the station who have been living here for over 20 years, and they said anything below 70 is chilly to them. So I would love to know your opinion. We'll pop this up a little bit later on in the show, but at what temperature do you start to feel a little bit of that fall chill in the air? Write your answer in the comments below. And of course, it is Halloween. The countdown is definitely on. We are 8 days out from Halloween, and through October, there's a lot of trunk or treats. There's a lot of Halloween parties through schools, neighborhoods getting together now. So a little bit of a photo challenge for everyone as we wrap up the month of October, and as Halloween is getting a little bit closer, we want to see your Halloween costume. So for a little bit of inspiration, here is my Halloween costumes through the years, as well as Honey's Halloween costumes as well. We want to see you dressed up. We want to see your kids dressed up. We want to see your pets dressed up if they are, or if you're getting friends and family together to do a group costume, we would love to see them as well. So if you do have any fun Halloween costumes that you're putting on this year, your kids are putting on this year, we would love to see them. We've gotten a couple of submissions already, and we'll take a look at them coming up in the first week of November, and we'll choose our favorites. Get bragging rights. Can't think of anything better than that. But if you do have a fun Halloween costume that you would like to share with us in the Fox 35 family, you can send your photos to fox35stormteam@fox.com or laurel.blanchard@fox.com, but keep an eye on your email. So after you do send us in a photo, we will be asking just for a quick consent form from you. We'll send an image, and you'll have to answer those questions on the image just to make sure we have your full consent in order to post it on our streaming shows, on our social media, you name it. So that's what we're going to be looking out for our photo challenge as we wrap up the month of October. So definitely send in those photos if you have them. All right, let's get to our forecast. So it is beautiful outside. It is such a nice day out there, but of course we are tracking the tropics. We'll take a look at our local forecast in a little bit, but 2 p.m. update on Melissa. So we are keeping an eye on the 2 p.m. update. 45-mile-per-hour winds. This is barely holding on to tropical storm strength. And this time yesterday, it was quite literally looking like a half circle. So what we were seeing with that is this side of the storm was fully intact, but the center was all the way over on the left side. And we're still trying to see that, but the storm is starting to organize. So as we do kind of play this forward, we can kind of see in the loop that we're starting to see some organization here. The storm is kind of starting to round out here, but the main reason why is because we were seeing a lot of wind shear in the atmosphere this time yesterday. And you can kind of still see it here if I back out just a little bit. And also some of the storms that are starting to pick up just off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. We can see areas, especially here, those storms kind of dying because we have a jet stream dipping down, and that's why we see also all these storms up here kind of shifting off back to the east. And this is why we're going to be seeing the possibility of this storm kind of holding barely together as it kind of intervenes with this wind shear that we have going on. So that's why we can kind of see this lopsided storm, and it's not this fully round tropical storm like we're used to seeing, but it's kind of almost cut in half. And as we head through this week and the weekend, it's going to really intensify because there's really warm water in the Southern Caribbean right now. It's in a little bit of that higher wind shear right now, but that wind shear is slowly going to start to fade as we head through the next couple of days. And those are just two ingredients for disaster. We are going to be seeing Melissa turn into a monster storm. And really because the main reason why is there has been no activity in the Southern Caribbean this year so far. So with that, there's really warm water, and if the water conditions and the atmospheric conditions just line up, yeah, there is going to be a storm if a wave kind of makes it in that way, and that's exactly what we're seeing out there right now. So Tropical Storm Melissa, we are actively tracking 45 mile per hour, and this storm is just going to stall for the next couple of days. It's moving north-northwest at 2 miles per hour. I bet y'all can walk faster than that, but that's what we're going to continue to see is once the system kind of gains that organization and makes its way up towards Jamaica, that's why we're going to be seeing that slow organization, and then kind of once the spark picks up and the storm is really picking up off of the warm ocean water, the low shear, that's where we're really going to see the storm organize very quickly. So we're going to take a look at that in a little bit. Here's the latest cone though, and then once we come back from our next break, we'll take a look at the spaghetti models. But here is the cone. 2 p.m. update, 45 mile per hour winds. It's going to hold that tropical storm strength for at least another 2 days before once we head into Sunday morning, Saturday night, then it's kind of open season from there. We're going to be seeing Category 1 storm, so officially Hurricane Melissa, most likely on Sunday, and then from there, again, it's open season with the open water. So we can see from Category 1 to Category 4 within a matter of about 48 hours. So Aaron, what we saw with that was such a quick intensification. It went from a Category 1 to a Category 5 in just over about 24 hours. This is going to be another quick intensifying storm. So something that we're really going to be looking at as we take a look at the next couple of days. So watching this storm very carefully, because then even still, if I close in a little bit, the center line of the cone of uncertainty kind of comes up and then shifts over. So from there, it is barely, right now, the current center path is barely just south of Jamaica. So Jamaica quite literally is in the firing line, and something that we're going to be watching very, very closely over the next couple of days. I'm taking a look outside right now. It is beautiful out there. A little bit on the breezy side, but crystal clear skies. We're going to be holding those beautiful sunny skies at least through the rest of the work week and through the start of the weekend. It was a little bit chilly this morning. We had that cold front roll through yesterday, kind of ushering in that cooler air, and it's going to be another chilly one as we head through the overnight tonight. And taking a look at tomorrow, 52 degrees on tap for tonight up in Gainesville, Orlando looking at the low 60s, along the coastline throughout the 60s. So it is slowly going to start to feel a little bit more like fall here in Central Florida, and that goes for tomorrow as well. Live radar is crystal clear, and it's going to continue to stay that way pretty much through the rest of the week before we see another cold front roll through probably around Sunday, where we could be seeing some of those scattered showers and thunderstorms back in action on Monday. But overall, temperatures slowly going to start to cool down ever so slightly as we head through the next couple of days. So that's kind of your big overview of what we're going to be talking today. We're going to take a quick break in just a minute, and we're going to go into a little bit of a deeper dive of Melissa. Are we going to be feeling any threats from Melissa here in Florida, as well as kind of take a little bit of a deeper dive into our local forecast. But again, if you missed this at the top of the show, we would love you to interact with our question of the day today and get involved with that. So at what temperature